We are making history. You guys are a part of it. The latest lab ever. FB Informant says he thought it said 10:30 a.m. at first. No. That would have I don't know which would have been more surprising, at 10:30 p.m. or 10:30 a.m. Probably the 10:30 a.m. This is the latest lab of all time. And I didn't think I was actually ever going to get this late. I know it's probably not a big surprise to everyone else, but I generally expected I would probably be tapping out before I wound up doing a lab this late. But I told you guys I was going to do it, and actually had some good stuff to talk about today. So decided to just go with it. 10:30 p.m. Central Time, the latest start ever. Almost certainly we'll be crossing over into morning here in my time zone. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but Alex Emmons says I never make a live late. See, here's the thing: the later that I go, the more people I hear from saying, "Hey, I never get to see now that you do the lab late, I actually get to see it." And then on the flip side, when I go early, then there's all the late people who are like, "Oh, I wasn't able to watch it. You guys, you went too early." So it turns out that there's an audience at basically any time of day here in the internet world where we can access all time zones at the same time. We've even got an Aussie in the chat. I see you, Ian Rhodes. He says it's always early in Australia. And Spud Ruckus says West Coast evening Astrolabe. Yes, so the West Coasters, this one's for you guys. Now, it'd be funny if if you guys get the viewership up above where it usually is, then I may have to just permanently start doing late labs like this. I'll just keep chasing the audience around. Eventually, we'll get back around. I'll be doing a 4 a.m. lab and getting all the late night folks, all the early morning folks. But no, the idea is not to keep doing them late like this. This is I don't know, accommodating to life as it is right now. Today, the reason I am so late, there she is in the chat. My lovely wife, it was her birthday, April 14th, the most important day of the year. Not because it's the day before tax day, but because it is my lovely wife's birthday. So we did a little birthday celebration this evening, and Gaga is here. Eastwood's grandma is finally in town. Got here a few days ago, so she's going to be staying with us for a little while. It's very nice, lovely to have her here. Means she probably won't be listening to the Labs live because they're going to be too late for her, for her body clock. But yeah, it'll be it's great to have her here, and my beloved wife. Great to have spent another year with her, and looking forward to many, many more. So I also went and picked up my my little sister from work this evening, so that Amy could turn in and get Eastwood to bed. Which also means we're definitely going to have some GIGAJEW content today, but I'm going to have to go easy on the bell, because Eastwood is now sleeping right on the other side of this wall right here, and he tends to sleep pretty deep. But I kind of have a feeling if he starts hearing the bell going off, then that might be something that penetrates into the slumber and rouses him. He loves that bell. Every opportunity he gets when he comes to my room, he says, "Can I ring the bell?" And I hand it to him, and then he sits there and he rings it as loud and hard as he can while he's watching me, waiting for me to react and say, "Okay, okay, enough." Um, but yeah, so a lovely Monday. I haven't completely kept up with. It's been kind of a busy weekend. I haven't kept up with all the various news things that are happening. But I did see Bukele with Trump, and some great videos came out of that. Got some great GIGAJEW clips stacking up, so I'm going to put all those together. And then I had some other odds and ends stories that I haven't run with for a little bit, because last several episodes have been dominated by talking about the trade war and all the things going on there. That seems to have settled into at least a brief little lull. So I'll catch up on a few other topics here. We'll touch on it a little bit, but I've got some deeper stuff I need to dig into to understand the bigger play that's happening right now. Yeah, Spud Ruckus, you can ring for me in the chat whenever it would be appropriate to ring for the GIGAJEW. You guys can do it for me. Yeah, so we'll touch a little bit on the trade war and tariffs and such things here, but I've got a few other things. We're going to talk about immigration. Got a bunch of clips from Bukele and then Stephen Miller. A few other immigration related things. Talking about NGOs being defunded. The climate scam is basically dead. Basically completely dead. We'll talk a little bit about some of those implications. And then I got an Asmongold clip. I've got a Theo Vaughn clip. Some wild stuff going on across the pond. And then I've got a Wade Stotts clip talking about the new Minecraft movie and the Zoomers. So we will we'll rock and roll with all of these things here. Do me a favor, hit the like button. All the usual housekeeping stuff. Make sure you like the stream. Follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. You can send a super chat, or there's a bunch of ways to donate in the description if you'd like to. If you like what I'm doing, you want me to keep doing it, then there's a Buy Me a Coffee. There's a Cash App. There's the King Pill Discord. Join over there, kingpill.com. And then also super chats. I've got one here already. We're getting off to a good start tonight. Michael Robertson, $5. He says, welcome to the later lab. Indeed. Astro late. We are Astro late tonight. Slutty Milk says, is Bukele the Giga Rab? Since he is part Palestinian. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Giga Rab. I don't know what name to call him. One of the guys from from the King Pill Discord, who goes by many names. He submitted the Giga Salve he made a GIGAJEW or a Giga, sorry, a GIGAJEW. It's stuck in the head now. He made a Giga edit of Bukele, called him the Giga Salve, and it looked awesome. He also has this one. I just happen to have it pulled up here. I'll share it. Our enemies fear this. Someone tweeted that at me. I can't remember exactly who it was. It was Itchy Dan. Tweeted this. Our enemies fear this. Giga Pete. Look at him. Haha. I saw that he found his way into some you can see the little warping on the glasses right up here. I saw some rumblings about Pete winding up in some sort of mainstream publication. I haven't completely caught up on that story yet, so I might have a follow-up on that tomorrow. But we got the Giga Pete here. Shout out to Frank Butcher. There's one of the names, Frank Butcher, the first citizen. I'm guessing he's probably asleep now, given that I know he gets up early for work. So he's an occasional watcher. When he watches this tomorrow, he'll appreciate that. We got the Giga Pete edit. And shout out to our boy for putting the good word out there, getting the libs all wound up. All right. Let's start off with a little bit of slop. I've played these guys a couple of times, and this makes me feel old. We've got the little kids garage band now doing covers of the Goo Goo Dolls. I didn't know that this day was going to come so quickly, but now I'm feeling old.
Bro, what's wrong?
I don't want the world to see me.
I don't want the world to see me.
You guys are cracking me up. Apparently that hit all of you exactly the same way it hit me. Sometimes I don't know exactly how these are gonna affect people, if they're gonna get the same reaction out of it that I did, and that one was definitely one of them. I didn't know whether I felt young or old. Definitely feel old. It's fascinating. I don't know if these kids are. Kenny Day says, if this isn't playing on EWBSX tomorrow, I'd be disappointed. Haha. I'll put in a good word with the cyberbully. I don't know. Like, it's so. If I was to go into be like a brand consultant, and I was talking to some young kids who are like, how can we get big? We want to be an Instagram band or whatever. How do we get big? Putting together a literal garage band and playing the Goo Goo Dolls is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. It's so good that you could only come up with this organically. This is the universe speaking. This is it's going to touch exactly the right audience right now. It's going to make them a thing. Everything 80s and 90s is coming back. All the nostalgia is in the air. We're reviving Creed, and so of course we're gonna have a bunch of Zoomers put together an actual rock band and play Goo Goo Dolls. That's what happens in 2025. And I want to know, is this like, how did they do it? How did they do it? How did they know this was going to be the thing to do? This is absolutely going to build a cult following almost immediately. They could do just about anything off of this. Isaac says, Zoomers love millennial music, not the music made by millennials, but the stuff they listen to. Yes, this is a very interesting thing about the Zoomer millennial relationship is, as I can figure out, Zoomers basically are let's see, the conflict from Zoomers directed toward millennials, the reason Zoomers don't like or great against millennials is because Zoomers love millennial culture and they think millennials are cringy the way they do millennial culture. The Zoomers are like, no, you need to do millennial culture the Zoomer way, and then it's cool. So they're sort of like wannabe millennials who think that the millennials don't do it right, which kind of makes sense if you think about like a younger Zoomer sibling with an older millennial sibling. You'd be like, when you're younger, you're like, oh man, my older sibling is so cool. I just want to be like them. But then as you start getting older, you start being like, they're kind of, the older sibling gets a little cringy. They're starting to get old. They don't understand the kids anymore. They're off doing adult stuff or whatever. You don't get us kids. So you still retain the love of all the things that the older sibling was into because you looked up to him. But now you're like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right. It seems as if you can kind of start mapping out generational relationships from the ones that are next to each other behave much more like siblings. And then when you skip a generation, you get more of the parent-child relationship. So like boomers to millennials is sort of a parent-child relationship at the social scale. And then like boomers to Gen X is more like the boomers are like the older siblings, Gen X, the younger siblings. So Gen X and millennials have like a sibling relationship. I grew up with uncles and aunts that were in their early to mid-teens. So they were closer. They weren't quite siblings, but they were kind of like siblings. They were extremely Gen X. So I grew up very much stewing in that Gen X world. So I'm more of a Gen X influenced millennial. But I also had a decent number of boomers who were around. I had young parents though. So yeah, it's a point of constant fascination to me. Kate says it's the soy millennials that don't do millennialism right. I can say from having discussed this with the King Zoomer that even the authentic, the good millennials don't do millennial culture right. We make everything cringe. Speaking of the Chief Zoomer, by the way, there is definitely not going to be a Labe or anything else on Thursday. There may be something on Friday. There definitely will not be something next Monday because I'm flying up to Michigan to spend the weekend with the Chief Zoomer. And I will be flying out on Thursday. I'll be traveling all of Thursday, and then I'll be traveling back all of Monday. But there is the possibility that we may do a Labe Friday night at Cooper's house in the same in the same room on the same computer. If we come up with something to talk about, then there may be a Labe Friday, but there definitely will not be one on Thursday. All right, let's keep going here. Politically Catholic sent this one to me. Old Poppy Libs. Who else misses offensive humor? I don't know if I've ever played anything from Liberty Cappy before. This is typically this sort of content doesn't quite hit me the right way, but this one is good. Number one, because of being reminded of just how unhinged things used to be, culturally speaking, compared to now, and where things are going.
No one identifies him or herself as prejudiced. We all think, okay, we have a hand up. You think you're prejudiced? Yep. Against who?
Well, let's see. Chevy Neons that cost $12 grand to buy but have $8,000 paint jobs and 9 spits inside them smoking weed. That's one thing.
Okay, now listen. The term spick.
It's okay. I'm spick.
Well, see, that's really not...
Crazy chink broads who don't know how to drive in the first place, and now they got cell phones stuck to their ears while they're doing 65 miles an hour down 6th Avenue. Right? And crazy chinks on bikes with 10 pounds of Chinese food strapped to the handlebars.
Okay, now, see, the word chink is what I like to call a problem word.
If I were a chink, I'd rather be called a chink than a
Gook.
Okay, now hold on. Listen to me, please. Chinese people would not like to be called gook or chink or pan face or zipperhead or...
See, that's another thing. I mean, Puerto Ricans, we get shafted even when it comes to racism. Chink's got what, like 4 ethnic slurs? We get 1. Spick. That's it. The Irish, they got Mick, Paddy, Donkey. Italians, they got Guinea, Wop, Dago.
Yeah, spaghetti bender.
Spaghetti Bender went out of style during Sidantra's first marriage.
Really?
Greaseball.
Yeah, Greaseball, there you have it. That's 4.
That's right. You know what? Same thing with the Jews, right? He, Pike, Jew Boy, Benny.
Shylock.
That's 5.
Yeah, black people forget about it.
There's your
Spear Chucker,
kings.
Jungle Bunny, Raisin Head, Porch Monkey. Spook.
Shine.
Tar baby.
Yeah, it's endless. Totally unfair.
Yeah.
What?
Now it's fascinating here. Of course, the guy who's going out and trying to longhouse everyone about using offensive language. Of course, it's a middle-aged, dumpy-looking white guy. Isn't that appropriate? That's definitely not where those ideas came from. But once you get the middle-aged white man saying it, then that's the sign that it's hitting. I don't know, the whatever the peak tipping point is. I can't think of the term, like terminal velocity. Yeah, this was someone said in the chat this was Rescue Me. I don't think this is that old even. Yeah, Slosher said this is from Rescue Me. What year did that come out? Let's look. Rescue Me. I remember when Dennis Leary was like I remember seeing him as like super edgy. Let's see here. Initial release 2004. Final first episode date was 2004. Final episode date was 2011. So okay, so 20 years. It's about 20 years ago. That seems about right. This is not that long ago. It's just lurking there. It's ready to come back. So as we start rehabilitating the 80s and 90s, you start reliving those, which makes sense that the Zoomers would really feel a kind of a pull toward it because I don't have any real memory of it. I remember the 90s. I don't really remember the 80s. I was born at the end of 88. I don't remember the 80s really at all, but I remember the 90s. I remember the 90s pretty early, very clearly. They weren't that long ago. So the Zoomers, who basically had no contact with the 90s and definitely no contact with the 80s, to them it's a, what would that be to me? That would be like the 70s, the 60s. Yeah, like the end of the 60s, early 70s. So they're going, but the difference is like the 60s and 70s weren't nearly as well documented as the 80s and 90s are. So all the youngins can now go back and relive all the different movies and TV shows and the proliferation of culture back then. So yeah, this is definitely coming back. We're gonna be able to say offensive things against zipperheads is such a I think the place I learned zipperheads was from Gran Torino. And I've heard multiple explanations for the origin of it. One of it was it's a World War II era slur. And one is because of like zipping body bags over their heads. The other I heard, which is very funny, is because they told him you just point at center mass, pull the trigger, and unzip their head. Okay. I've got 2 stories here about awesome dads, awesome white men. First one. There was these huge floods going on in West Tennessee, and this guy built levees around the property to completely preserve and protect the property, despite everything else being completely flooded. This dude just bought himself a lifetime of getting his own way, of people listening to him, of free drinks. Look at this absolute Chad. Completely untouched. Now they can't go anywhere, but that's better than being forced out, because then you definitely wouldn't be going anywhere. Bowtied Ranger said the white man is uniquely capable of achieving the most unbelievable feats in the most austere conditions imaginable, and I'm tired of the world not celebrating this fact. Insane dad lore. He will never have to justify a project to his wife again. He's going to be telling his wife, I told you so, for a long time. They had the same thought I did. Army Corps of Engineers needs to hire this guy. Civilization in a Sea of Brown, a poetic summary of the world. That's a banger. Show this to your wife and you say, I'm buying a tractor. What an absolute king. Just a king. And then this one. So let's see. Yeah, we'll do it in this order first. So Rory McIlroy won the Masters. I was disappointed I wasn't able to follow it nearly as closely as I wanted to this year, but he won. This is a video of him at 9 years old talking about his burgeoning golf career, and then I've got another story about him.
When you can't get out when the weather's really bad, I know that you practice in the house, don't you?
Yes.
And tell us how you practice in the house. How do you do it? It's not putting you're practicing pitching now, so how do you do it?
I chip air balls into my mum's washing machine.
Along the hall, in through the kitchen door, into your mum's washing machine.
Yes.
Full set of skills. The washing machine comes along. Look at that smile. 1999, Rory McIlroy on a national TV show.
When you can't.
I know a lot of people don't like Rory McIlroy. He's a rather controversial character, but I've always really enjoyed him. Maybe it's the accent. I've always enjoyed his personality, kind of grumpy. But here's this from Gary Tan. To fund his golfing ambitions, McIlroy's parents took on extra jobs. Jerry worked 100 hours a week. He cleaned toilets and showers at a local sports club in the morning, served as a bartender at Hollywood Golf Club from 12 to 6 p.m., then returned to the sports club to work behind the bar in the evenings. Rosie looked after Rory during the day and worked night shifts, packaging rolls of tape at a 3M factory in Bangor, County Down. Due to their conflicting schedules, McIlroy's parents rarely saw each other during this period. Jerry later said, I had no idea what else to do. I'm a working class man. We wanted to give our only child a chance. After finding success as a professional golfer, McIlroy bought his parents a house in 2009 and stated, I'll never be able to repay mom and dad for what they did, but at least they know they'll never have to work another day. I'll do whatever it takes to look after them. That hits close to home. This is why I cannot get behind the anti-sports ball people. This right here. This is sports ball at its peak. These sorts of stories, having the whole family rally around a guy as he dedicates his life to mastering this physical craft and then puts it to a test again at the peak, the highest tier of challenger, whatever the sport is. These guys dedicate their entire lives turning their bodies into machines, refined to the height of precision. They dedicate themselves to their craft, and then they go out and they do insane physical feats. Physical, mental, spiritual feats in the public eye. This is one of the few vectors that we still have where a young kid can watch someone grow up and do this, dedicate his life to his craft, and become great. It's kind of like California. I see a lot of people, they'll talk about, oh, California, we got to, we just need to saw it off, let it float off into the Pacific and just get rid of California. No. California is one of the best places in America. It's a jewel of America. It's a great prize, a great treasure. It needs to be liberated, not cut loose. The same with sports ball culture. It needs to be liberated, not ignored and pushed away. Now, you may not be into sports ball. It just may not be something that captures you, but I won't force you to like it, but I'll tell you, you're missing out. There is something for everyone. If you just make yourself follow it, just pick a sport, any sport. Just follow it. Pick a team, pick a player, pick a whomever that you're interested in, and just start following the storyline. Just keep track of it. Start feeling the ebbs and flows of it. Experience some of the community that develops around it. And you'll realize that there's something extremely ancient about it that is lost to us, generally speaking. I think sports is like practice for nationalism. It naturally cultivates pride in one's community, one's people, what's close. It encourages, and it has an immediate impact on real life, meat space. It forces you to invest in something that happens in meat space that is largely out of your control. But you buy in and you invest in it, and you follow it, and you encourage it, you promote it, because of what it does for people who do that. It helps you. It's like the going to the gym to work out your tribalism muscles. And it's also an outlet for that, for those sorts of tensions. People scoff about bread and circuses, the idea of bread and circuses, because what bread and circuses actually is and the way people typically use it is not the same thing. But the bread and circuses actually serve a very useful purpose. And the pshawing about bread and circuses, looking down your nose, is like, oh, the silly little plebs, they need their bread and circuses to distract them because they don't have the elegant mind that I do. I don't need those silly bread and circuses. I sit up here aloof and detached in my ivory tower, and I don't have to get mud on my shoes. When people talk about bread and circuses, that's how they sound with respect to sports ball. You know what the sports ball people are doing? They're making friends for life and binding themselves up into a community and investing in something that's out of their control for the sheer outlet of passion that it is. That voice sounded like a gayer Zuckerberg. I've had a few people tell me recently that I sound like Zuckerberg. I don't know if I like that. Anyways, here's our vice president, who is himself a sports ball proponent. The Ohio State college football team, the national they took the national championship trophy and went to the White House. And JD is a big Ohio State fan. He knows how to get down with his people. That's the other thing too, is if you want to claim to speak for the average American, if you think the Chuds are your people, then having such a dim view of sports ball is kind of at odds with that sentiment, because the Chuds love their sports ball. That's one of the redeeming things about them. But they had a little bit of a gaffe. Uh-oh. See, it kind of looked to me like Like the I don't know if this was JD who pulled it apart right here, or if it was this dude here trying to help him. And it bloop yanked right apart. Someone didn't give him didn't tell him how you have to pick the thing up. But as usual, he just rolls with it. He says, he tweeted this out afterwards. I didn't want anyone after Ohio State to get the trophy, so I decided to break it. He's too good at this. He is too good. Speaking of too good, I have got a sequence of absolute bangers, just pure kino coming out of the White House with Trump and Bukele and the cabinet there. So this is the first one. Trump talking about the cognitive exam that he took as part of his physical exam, which, interestingly, that physical exam revealed that he has lost 20 pounds. I played that video a couple weeks, or maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, of him walking. I was like, man, he's looking pretty svelte. And sure enough, he's lost 20 pounds.
And by the way, I took my cognitive exam as part of my physical exam, and I got the highest mark. And one of the doctors said, "Sir, I've never seen anybody get that kind of mark. That was the highest mark." I hope you're happy with that. Although they haven't been bugging me too much to take a cognitive, but I did do my physical and it was released. I hope you're all happy with it. I notice there's no question, so probably you are. But the cognitive, they said to me, "Sir, would you like to take a cognitive test?" I said, "Did Biden take one?" No. "Did anybody take one?" No, not too many people took them. I said, what about Obama? Did he take one? No, he didn't take one either. I said, let me be the only one to take one. But I've actually taken them 3 times already. I like taking them because they're not too tough for me to take. But we had a great physical exam, so I know you're going to ask that. And the doctors, who are total professionals, Walter Reed Medical Center, they're great people. And I visited a soldier that was badly wounded, incredible soldier, lost his leg, and spent a lot of time with him. I mean, great with his mother, and it was really a very great thing. They do a phenomenal job. I just want to say, Walter Reed, I was there for, 5-6 hours. You were there with me. But I took a full physical, and it came out perfecto, so that's good. It means you've got me for a little longer.
I could listen to him talk about anything. It's just, he is one of a kind. John says it all went to his dick. What can you do? My president is at peak cognitive fitness. Can you imagine? Can you imagine having a president who wasn't at peak cognitive fitness? Wouldn't be me. Not my president. My president is at peak cognitive fitness. What a guy. He's like, they're like, do you want to take a cognitive test, sir? He says, well, did Biden take a cognitive test? Nope, no, he didn't. What about Obama? Nope, he didn't. Well, I guess I better take one then. So nobody else takes it, but he got the highest marks. They're not too hard for him, you see. Rethuglican, $5 super chat. He says, deactivated my X. Even the best noticers on there are becoming unbearable. Was wondering if you could put Labe announcement on YouTube community posts. Yes, I can try to remember to do that. The other thing you could do is you could join the King Pill Discord. More info on that coming soon. There's new things coming. I think there's going to be a more reason for you guys to join coming very soon. But yes, I will try to remember to put them on the YouTube community posts just for you, my friend. Okay, so a couple of clips here now from Trump and Bukele. Whoops. What's going on here? That was not supposed to happen. Here we go. A few clips here now. So they're just a couple of bros, man. They're the pictures, all the stuff that came out, just total kino. But there was a couple of one-liners that they dropped here that I wanted to share with you guys, and then they had an interesting little back and forth with what's her name, Caitlin Collins. So first of all, here this is them just chatting back and forth.
Time. So I knew him as a very young man. Now he's just a young man. And he's done a fantastic job. Mr. President, it's an honor to have you. Thank you.
It's interesting. He knew him as a very young man. Huh. A very young man. Interesting. Now he's just a young man. I've speculated for quite a while. Jason and I talked about this many times over the last year and a half, that it seems pretty clear Bukele couldn't do what he's done without a lot of help. Like, he's not just gonna swoop in there and wipe out the cartels and remain in power and pull all of the crazy schemes that he did without, number one, a lot of logistics assistance and planning and strategizing, and knowing that there is a lot of financial and military support behind him. And it seemed very clear, given the positions with Bitcoin and the tenor of his administration, that there is a big overlap between those who want to see Trump in power and those who want to see Bukele in power. And by those, I'm not talking just about voters. I'm talking about powerful interests. So Jason had this idea, the Bill to Caesar theory, where you get a number of these different guys like Bukele, Milei. There's been a handful of others to greater or lesser degrees who they're right wing relative to their country, and each of them has a core issue that is his big thing. So with Milei, it was like slashing government spending and the whole Afuera thing, slashing government spending, firing a bunch of bureaucrats, and trying to get the housing market turned around. Bukele, it was defanging the NGOs and wiping out the cartels and restoring law and order. And now that those examples exist out there, someone like Trump can just draw on them. So instead of Trump saying, we're going to begin this new process of wiping out all of the cartels and gangs and terrorists and restoring law and order, he could just say, we're going to do what Bukele did. See, Bukele did it and it worked. So there's a proof of concept. Now we're going to apply it in our circumstance here. So it's very interesting to see that Trump's made that comment, that he knew him when he was a very young man. Now, it could be he's just referring to, 6 years ago? 2019, I think, was 2018, 6 or 7 years ago. He would have been a younger man then, but I don't know. There was something that kind of perked my ear up. How long have the two of them known each other and had been in cahoots on some level?
You've done incredibly for your country, and we appreciate working with you because you want to stop crime, and so do we. And it's very, very effective. And I want to just say hello to the people of El Salvador and say they have one hell of a president. Okay, and I mean that. I know him well. I know him as a very young man, Marco. Even younger than you. He started pretty young.
He'll always be younger.
Young at heart. But I want to thank you for the great job you're doing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here in the Oval Office with the President and leader of the free world. We're very happy, and we're very eager to help. We know that you have a crime problem, a terrorism problem that you need help with. And we're a small country, but if we can help, we will do it. And we actually turned the murder capital of the world, that was the journalists call it, right? Murder capital of the world, into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. And, sometimes they say that we imprison thousands. I like to say that we actually liberated millions. So,
it's very good. Who gave him that line? Do you think I can use that?
Yes. And in fact,
I know it's a little bit hard to understand it, but he said, I like to say that instead of imprisoning thousands, I liberated millions. And Trump was like, oh, that's very good. He said, who gave him that line? Can I use that one?
Mr. President, you have 350 million people to liberate. Yes. But to liberate 350 million people, you have to imprison some. That's the way it works, right? You cannot just, free the criminals and think crime's going to go down magically. You have to imprison them so you can liberate 350 million Americans that are asking for the end of crime and the end of terrorism. And it can be done. I mean, you're doing it already. And I'm sure that people have seen the change in the streets. A long way to go because you're just initiating your second term. But it's clear that, you know, with the numbers at the border, you know, even in Democrat-run cities, they get a help from the work you're doing. So I'm really happy to be here, honored, and eager to help.
Well, we had a terrible thing happen. We had an administration that allowed.
I love how Bukele dresses. He always has this. He does the the dark undershirt. It's like a sweater, I guess, kind of a really light sweater with the blazer. He looks sharp, but it's modern, very professional. I don't know if I've ever even seen him in a tie, but they're just the two of the best world leaders, the best leaders, genuine leaders, sincere men on the global stage. I saw Taylor Brown says I got to hang around and see if my meme made the lab, and it did. I was gonna show it a little bit later, but I'll move it up here for your sake because I see the wife is waiting. So I'll do you a solid. He popped this one out here, cracked me up. So first of all, look a little closer there. Yeah, look at the faces. Couple of Chads, the Giga Salve, and I don't even what do you call him? The Gigadon, Giga Trump. You guys debate it, but he says Trump, Naib, name the deportation plane. Bukele, Sanchez, Sky Kicker, Mr. Prez. Trump, nah, Giga Chad mode. Cholo Chuckwagon, more savage. Wetback Whirlybird, banger Naib, absolutely goated. The wetback Whirlybird. Oh man, I have the feeling that that if Mr. Bukele saw that tweet, he would probably get a good chuckle out of it. He definitely would not retweet it. I can tell you that. He'll retweet some stuff, but I can tell you he definitely wouldn't retweet that one. He'd probably think it was funny though. So then a little back and forth they had here about Trump's border numbers.
Okay. We appreciate it.
Oop. Sorry, I still had it sped up. I didn't pull them all back.
And we appreciate it. Thanks.
Actually, what you're doing with the border is remarkable. It has dropped, what, 95%? It's incredible.
Okay. As of this morning, 99%, 99.1% to be exact.
Why are those numbers not in the media?
Well, they get out with the fake news, you know, like CNN over here doesn't want to put them out because they don't like putting out good numbers. They only like putting out because I think they hate our country actually.
Yeah,
but it's a shame. You're right. Isn't that a great question? Why doesn't the media? Why don't they put out numbers?
Yeah, 99%. I mean, it's crazy, right?
We're doing
it's a crazy turnaround.
Christy, could you maybe say a couple of words?
Just had Christy Nome talk about it. What a wingman, right? Trump's out here. He's like, so Bukele's like, what? They dropped like 95%. So he gives him an opportunity. I guarantee you, Bukele knew it was more than 95%. He says, what, 95%? And so he gives his boy the chance to go, no. 99.1%. Let me tell you about my numbers, the big, beautiful numbers. So he gives him an opportunity to really dial it in just perfectly. And then he's perfect hype man. He's like, why aren't those numbers in the media? Just tease him up with another one. This is the wingman bros out there. You should be taking notes. Bukele knows how to pump up his bro and give him opportunities to brag about all the things that are important to him. And then this here was the big kahuna in the conversation, the big headline getter. Caitlin Collins, the Scott Pressler and drag, she just had to do it. Just had to go out and stick her foot in it again. I think a lot of these personalities, their job is precisely to be this dumb. Like they're doing this for ratings. Her job is to be this provocative and this dumb. But it works out just wonderfully for us because we get clips like this one, almost 6 minutes, but this is a back and forth where I think, does this have Rubio in it as well? Yeah. So Pam Bondi, Stephen Miller, we're going to get our first GIGAJEW appearance of the night, and Marco Rubio, along with Trump and Bukele, just took turns body bagging Caitlin Collins on the issue of this guy from Maryland, originally from El Salvador, MS-13 guy who was quote unquote mistakenly deported to El Salvador. We'll have you guys are going to know all about this by the time the next couple of videos are done.
I support it. Go ahead. Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CNN.
Now they're using the mics they're using in here are they have to get the mics moved around to them. So some of these clips are kind of quiet, or sometimes when some of them start talking, it's kind of quiet. So if you're just a heads up, I can't do anything about it. It's as loud as I can make it. But you just have to listen closer.
Low-rated. Which one is that? Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him?
And you are doing a great job. Thank you, Pam.
Interesting little, he makes sure he says, you are doing a great job. That's a little nugget there. I don't know if you could hear Caitlin Collins right there before we start playing it again. She said, so are you going to be returning him? And the deal with this one, this is another one of those things where if you saw people, you could start building a bit of a profile on certain people based on how quick their trigger finger is on blackpilling based on headlines. Because when the Supreme Court ruled on this and the announcement was made, the first few headlines that came out said Supreme Court rules 9-0 that they must facilitate this man's return to the country. And so everyone just immediately just doomed out. Oh, they ignore the court. Ah! Now, yes, there's going to come a time where they're going to have to ignore the court, potentially. Now, you want to push that time off as long as possible. So, which means you've got to go through the back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You have to do this because the country isn't remotely prepared for what comes next when the administration ignores the Supreme Court. The country is genuinely not prepared to back a move like that right now on any of the issues that are available for that. So the administration has to do the hard work here, but you're going to get an explanation here a couple of times in a couple of these different videos from a few different people describing the details of this. And what happened is this guy's been deported to El Salvador. He's physically in El Salvador now. And the Supreme Court said what they actually ruled was if El Salvador was to return him, then the administration would have a responsibility to facilitate that process. But it would just be returning him here to deport him to a different country. Because there was some sort of a thing that said he couldn't go back to El Salvador, and that would have to be revisited. It was like he couldn't be returned to El Salvador because there was too much violence happening in El Salvador, so he could be returned somewhere else. That's decided in 2019 or something like that. Since then, El Salvador has become the lowest murder rate in the Western Hemisphere. So you could go back and revisit that and say, okay, can we deport him to El Salvador now? But the administration, that's like essentially a paperwork issue that has to be resolved. But the administration would have been perfectly legally within the right to deport him anywhere else. And that was going to be the ultimate outcome, is that he was going to get deported somewhere else anyways. But the media has kept hammering on this, and it's becoming a real blatant preference revealer that is just everything here is playing perfectly into the administration's hand to continue maximizing the deportation effort and to embolden them even further with respect to the press being just completely out to lunch. Night, Taylor.
Stephen Miller, wait a minute. Could you just
There he is.
also respond to that question? Because, you know, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from
Ding, 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 ding.
So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So we had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then...
So because he has the foreign terrorist designation, the federal government is obligated to remove him from the country. It quite literally is illegal for the federal government to allow him to remain in the country. So the press is taking this angle of they're treating it as if this is something like the federal government is stepping in to do something of their own accord, whereas the federal government is obligated to remove him from the country because he has now been designated a foreign terrorist.
By a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask
Supreme
for
Court's
anything
asking
to...
to... And what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0.
In our favor?
In our favor, against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States.
So no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy of the United States. And it's so priceless that they get the opportunity to frame this up this way with the president of El Salvador sitting right there. What the district court was trying to force the federal government to do, they were saying this guy who is a citizen of El Salvador is physically present in El Salvador and is under the jurisdiction of the Salvadorian government. Here in front of the president of El Salvador, the press is going to litigate this on our behalf from the perspective of the district court. The United States now has an obligation to go kidnap, go into El Salvador, extract a Salvadorian citizen, bring him back here, a Salvadorian citizen who's been designated a foreign terrorist. He has to be brought back here into the country so that he could be sent to a different country. He legally cannot be kept within the United States. This is the beyond the pale, off the deep end that this district court judge had gotten to. The complete insanity. Like this is criminality from the bench. But frankly, it's not even worth trying to approach it as criminality because it's so pants on head, blindingly stupid that the federal government is going to have to go extract this guy from El Salvador and bring him back. What other citizens of other countries is this district court going to tell the federal government? What other citizens need to be kidnapped and brought to the U.S., leaving aside the foreign terrorist designation?
As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time. No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it for the court can only be directed to him.
He says there was no end of the story that has him living in the United States. What the district court said is, if you, the president of El Salvador, if you unilaterally decide you want to take your citizen and send him to us, then we're obligated to receive him and then deport him to another country. There is no part of this that winds up with him actually living in the United States. And they're standing in front of the president of El Salvador. Hey, sir, do you want to go? Do you want to take your citizen and send him back to us for some reason?
Well, I'm supposed you're not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
He says, I suppose you're not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist in the United States, right?
I mean, how can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States. You could release him inside El Salvador. Yeah, but I'm not releasing. I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? But that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into our
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it. They're sick. These are sick people. Marco, do you have something to say about
Yeah, I mean,
You see Bukele's little chuckle. Watch him when he says these are sick people.
They're sick. These are sick people. Marco, do you have something to say about
yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function in the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be...
Can you imagine being this woman? Imagine being this woman being tasked with the job of continuing to press this issue. I cannot begin to conceive of how it would feel to stand there in her shoes, look at the president of El Salvador after all of that, and say, are you going to send him back? Imagine asking a head of state a question like that and having him say, are you suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist back into the United States? And then the other guy says, well, you could just release him onto your streets. You're saying that I should take a terrorist that I'm holding in prison and release him onto my streets so he can smuggle himself back into the United States. These people have departed reality. This is beyond like evil and malevolent. These people genuinely don't comprehend the meaning of the words that they are saying.
How long do we have to answer this question from you? Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over, and that's why nobody watches you anymore? You know, you have no credibility. Please, go ahead.
And so after Bukele left, the White House tweeted this video. I love the people of El Salvador, and they have one hell of a president, President Donald J. Trump. And Bukele quote tweeted and said, I miss you already, President T.
Mr. President, it's an honor to have you. Doing incredibly for your country, and we appreciate working with you because you want to stop crime, and so do we. I want to thank you for the great job you're doing.
I'm really happy to be here, honored, and here to help. We're a small country, but if we can help, we do it.
We just have had a great relationship, and I want to just say hello to the people of El Salvador and say they have one hell of a president.
And this is Bukele's current penned tweet. What a bromance. Look at our boys out there. Just a couple of bros. Just broing it up, surrounded by a bunch of gold. I saw a picture the other day of comparing the Oval Office with Biden and then the Oval Office with Trump again. There was like virtually no gold at all. And Trump gets back in there and now there's just gold everywhere. Look at these, just absolute bros. So then on that issue, now I know the back and forth was a little bit hard to hear, and the audio was all over the place. So on that issue of this guy from El Salvador and being deported from Maryland, here is our GIGAJEW on Fox, and even the Fox conversation got a little bit spicy between the two of them. But here he gives an even a greater breakdown of it.
Number one, DOJ said a federal court cannot compel the executive branch to engage in any mandated act of diplomacy or incursion upon the sovereignty of another nation. So your argument is that you don't have to bring him back home, but will you?
So I want to correct, I hate to do it, Bill, but I got to correct you on every single thing that you said because it was all wrong. First, we won the Supreme Court case. Clearly, 9-0. A district court judge said unconscionably that the president and his administration have to go into El Salvador and extradite one of their citizens, an El Salvadorian citizen, so that would be kidnapping, that we have to kidnap an El Salvadorian citizen against the will of his government and fly him back to America, which would be an unimaginable act and an invasion of El Salvador's sovereignty. So we appealed to the Supreme Court, and it said clearly, no district court can compel the president to exercise his Article 2 foreign powers in any way whatsoever. DOJ called me after that Supreme Court ruling, and they said, this is amazing. We won this case 9-0. We are in excellent standing here. So this has been portrayed wrong for 72 hours in the media. They said the most a court could ever compel you to do would be to facilitate return, which would basically mean if El Salvador voluntarily sends him back, we wouldn't block him at the airport. We would put him back into ICE detention, and then he would be deported either back to El Salvador or somewhere else. The Supreme Court said that is the most the government can be expected to do. So we won the case handily. The misreporting on this has been atrocious.
Okay,
Secondly,
I appreciate
he was
the
not, no, Bill, it's
clarification
important.
that's the case.
He was not mistakenly sent to El Salvador.
Okay, so do you still
He's an
believe
illegal
he is a
alien
member of
from
MS?
El Salvador. Hold on, this is important. In 2019, he was ordered deported. He has a final removal order from the United States. These are things that no one disputes. Where is he from? El Salvador. Where is he a resident and citizen of? El Salvador. Is he here illegally? Yes. Does he have a deportation order? Yes. A DOJ lawyer who has since been relieved of duty, a saboteur, a Democrat, put into a filing incorrectly that this was a mistaken removal. It was not. This was the right person sent to the right place. Now, some have said, well, but he had a thing called a withholding order. So a withholding order means you've been ordered deported, but an immigration judge is saying you cannot go back to a particular country. Here's the thing. If you are a member of a foreign terrorist organization, you cannot have a withholding order. Since he's in MS-13, there is no withholding order. Furthermore, the gang that he is accused of being persecuted by doesn't exist anymore in El Salvador. The 18th Street gang is gone. So you have an illegal alien from El Salvador. Bill, where are we supposed to send the illegal alien from El Salvador?
You haven't even
to
allowed
what
me
country?
to ask you a question. Are you convinced he is still a member of MS-13? That was your original charge.
Yes. Not only, but here's the thing, Bill. Yes, but here, not only am I convinced of it, not only is El Salvador convinced of it, Bill, he's an illegal alien from El Salvador with the deportation order. So his only options in life, Bill, his only options in life are to be deported to El Salvador or to be deported to some other country. That's it. He has a deportation order. So, Bill, you tell me, what country should we deport him to? Tell me, please. Tell me.
So Marco Rubio on Sunday morning said this. On Saturday night, another 10 criminals from the
Which country should we deport him to? You tell me. So there's a couple of additional points to come out of that. Number one, there was a DOJ attorney who he pointed. I hadn't heard this before. This clip that this DOJ attorney has since been dealt with. This saboteur, who put a note in his file that said it was inappropriate to send him out. Now, the details of it, if you kind of missed that, was there was this withholding order, which basically says this person has a deportation order. They need to be deported, but they're being withheld from this country. They can't be deported to this country. So in this case, the withholding order said that he can't be deported to El Salvador because, and if I'm recalling right from when I studied the story previously, it's because there was lots of violence in El Salvador. So the judge had said, well, it would be inhumane to deport him to this crime-ridden country, even though he's a Salvadorian and he is here illegally and he does have a standing deportation order. It's being withheld. We can't send him to El Salvador. But now that he has been designated a member of a foreign terrorist organization, namely MS-13, then withholding orders are nullified. You cannot have a withholding order for a member of a foreign terrorist organization. So even that point was like, this is the thing that first everyone said, oh, he shouldn't have been deported. And then the next narrative was okay, so he should have been deported, but he shouldn't have been deported to El Salvador because of this withholding order. And what Stephen Miller is saying is, even at Fox, you guys don't have this right. You're trying to be sort of sympathetic and you're getting some more of the story right, but even you're not getting it. It doesn't matter if there was a withholding order preventing him from being sent to El Salvador. He's part of a designated foreign terrorist organization. Withholding order is nullified. He's a Salvadorian illegal alien that by law we are required to remove from the country. So where do we send him? We're going to send him to El Salvador. Now that he's in El Salvador, he's under their purview. It doesn't matter if some judge says, go get him and bring him back. They're like, legally speaking, going to get this guy and bring him back into the country would be kidnapping. We would be executing a military invasion and kidnapping a citizen of another country against the wishes of their government to bring them back here for what? To deport them again? Yet the press, this is beyond like, oh, the press is incompetent or they're just going to fight him on everything or whatever. This is peak meltdown status. They don't have anything else to hold on to try to build a case on anything with. So they're to the point where this is what they've got to run with. They've got to try to build a story out of this. Russians with Attitude tweeted this out earlier this evening. Said, the only individual in Trump's admin I find truly fascinating on a personal level is Stephen Miller. Total monomania, doesn't care about anything other than deporting foreigners. A man on a mission. Every leader needs a henchman like that. And there's a couple of quotes from this New Yorker profile on him. Quote, as a staffer serving his boss, he was excellent, Julia Preston, a former correspondent for The Times, told me. She spoke to Miller regularly. Quote, this stuff is emotional for him. In a conversation about H-1B visas, quote, he was talking so passionately that he actually wept. And then from another piece, he has the president's complete trust, said Mr. McCarthy. Trump's complained about everyone, never him. Mr. Trump may not complain about Mr. Miller, but he does occasionally poke at his obsession with immigrants, a hostility that goes far beyond Mr. Trump's. In one meeting during the 2024 campaign, Mr. Trump said that if it was up to Mr. Miller, there would be only 100 million people in this country, and they would all look like Mr. Miller, according to a person with knowledge of the comment. Caroline Levitt, Mr. Trump's spokeswoman, denied the account. And then, as the meeting ended, Miller held up his hand to make a final comment. I didn't mean to come across as harsh, he said. His voice dropped. It's just that this is all I care about. I don't have a family. I don't have anything else. This is my life. Our GIGAJEW, man. Look at him. This is his whole life. Now, that's an old story because he is married now. I think he might have kids too. Married Katie Miller, who's also a member of the administration. I can't remember where. Douglas Archer on Twitter says, somehow his Jewish programming got reversed. Well, every once in a while you get one of these. You get the scheming vizier who takes the whole skill set and directs it monomaniacally toward achieving the ends of some great leader. And in this case, we have our great, what is Luongo calling him now? Creamsicle Mussolini. He's Creamsicle Mussolini is what the libs are calling him. And our GIGAJEW has dedicated his life to fulfilling the anti-brown people goals of his leader. This is another Giga edit from your boy Taylor Brown. And then I've got two more clips of him. One of these is a long one, 10 minutes. But this is him this is like a cat with a cat with a bunch of mice, just playing with them, just toying with them.
Gentlemen, the return, guys, do you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order? Do you know the difference? Any of you, please. Do you?
Well, we're not in the government.
But you didn't spend, so you couldn't even spend 72 hours over the weekend learning the distinction, even though you've been writing and talking about it this whole time.
Stephen, we're not going anywhere. On gold cards.
Just raise your hand. Does any of you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order?
My question is, how do you know that he's a member of uncertainty? The White House has repeatedly said according to intelligence.
By the way, according to our government and his government. In other words, his government has confirmed based on their own intelligence that he's a member.
No.
First of all, do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
What's that?
Do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
No.
Okay. And do you dispute that as an illegal alien, you have the right to deport him?
He went through
He went through the legal process. So I want to be very. What I'm getting from this conversation, which is educational for me, is that not one person in the media knows the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order. Is that a fair statement? You're learning about this all for the first time right now? I guess so. Okay. So the deportation order means the judge has said he must be deported from the country. He has no right to remain here any longer. He must be removed from the country. So his only options are to be deported to his home country or another country. That's it. There's no other option. He doesn't get to stay here. He doesn't get to live here. He has no future here. He has no right to be here. He's an illegal alien. So when you keep saying return, because you've been spun up by the open borders advocates, you all seem to be operating under the illusion that he would be able to come to the United States and just continue to live here illegally. That's not an option available to him. His only choices in life are to live in El Salvador or to live in another country. That's it. There's no other option, legally or otherwise, because he came to our country illegally. Do you understand that?
Stephen, can I ask, as a matter of policy, does the administration believe that immigration judges, because they're under DOJ, that their orders can be overruled by what the administration wants? Is that a general matter of policy?
Well, actually, so specifically, is the Attorney General has authority to overrule the immigration courts, and that's actually by statute. Yes. Other questions?
Stephen, on the gold card, the President and Secretary Lutnick have suggested they're lining up applicants already. How many people do you expect to be tagged to this program when the President announces it this week, if he actually announces it this week?
I'll let Secretary Lutnick provide that update, but I appreciate that.
The White House administration is going to report 1 million undocumented people.
Much more than that.
Stephen, also of the 10...
Oh, we got to listen to that again. I don't know how well you can hear the questions when they're asking them, but she said, is it the White House's goal to port 1 million undocumented immigrants?
Provide that update, but I appreciate that.
The White House administration is going to report 1 million undocumented people.
Much more than that.
Stephen, also of the 10 alleged gang members that Secretary Rubio said were sent to El Salvador over the weekend, what sort of due process did they get as mandated by the Supreme Court?
Well, you're talking about the alien enemies?
Yes, the alien.
Oh, he's ready to go. Let's go.
So first of all, a number of those are MS-13. So again, those are just standard removals of El Salvadorians to El Salvador. And without,
what evidence did you provide that they were MS-13?
Okay, so we seem to be confused about this. Illegal aliens from El Salvador, again, get deported to El Salvador. Do you all appreciate that tens of thousands of Salvadorians have been deported to El Salvador? You seem to be under the impression that El Salvadorians living in our country illegally just get to stay here. They don't. They get arrested and deported. Then the fact that they're MS-13 just puts an extra priority on our deporting them. But we would deport someone to El Salvador regardless of whether or not they were MS-13 if they were here illegally. That's just an extra, because of the priority on public safety threats, we're emphasizing the removals of gang members, in this case, foreign terrorist organization gang members. But as to your other question, they went through all of the due process, as you would call it, that is required by law. So, but I just want to, what I find so mystifying is that I've been talking to you all for.
He's doing the hands.
I legitimately, in my entire, going back years actually, in my entire professional life, I've never received this many questions from the media about an American who was raped or murdered by an illegal alien. Legitimately never. And all of you who are enjoying your lives and doing quite well, if you had children and you were living near any of these people, you would move away immediately. You would call the police immediately. You would call us and ask us to make you and your family safer immediately. And you thank your lucky stars every night that you have enough means and enough money not to live in communities where, say, illegal alien pedophiles offend and reoffend and keep reoffending and keep reoffending. There's an expression there, but for the grace of God, go I. The Biden administration apprehended 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela. They were trained to Aragua. I mean, a lot more than 2, but I'm telling you. And they decided they were entitled to an enormous amount of due process. And they didn't feel they had enough evidence to just deport them right away. So they put them on a monitoring system known as supervised release. You're familiar with this case. But a few weeks later, they kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Nungary, who was 12 years old at the time. I'm sure you've seen pictures of her. I mean, just the most perfect girl you could possibly imagine. And her mother loved her very much. She was tied up, savagely beaten, stripped naked, tortured to death, murdered. Her body was dumped into the lake. So she didn't get any due process, but I'll tell you who did are the 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela who stole her forever. And there's stories like that all over the country. We just arrested a pedophile illegal alien who was being shielded by Sanctuary City, who's been charged in 20 sex crimes against children. None of any of you have had the chance to spend time with victims' families, whose children have been raped, or whose wives have been raped and murdered. But if that doesn't break your heart, nothing will. And I know that we have some people, like Taylor Lawrence, who fantasize about assassinations and things like that. But in a civilized society, the power of the state is used to keep innocent people alive and to keep innocent women and children from being hurt. This administration is never going to apologize for using the power of the state to keep men, women, and children from being savagely murdered and beaten. If we release known and suspected MS-13 and trained to Aragua, and then there's another Jocelyn Nungary, then whose responsibility is that going to be? Do you think that we're going to sit around wringing our hands, wondering if, maybe we should, release this person, give them a little bit of extra time, give them a little bit extra chance to plead their case, and then what? They kidnap somebody, they slit their throat, they shoot them in the head, and we say, well, at least the illegal alien got due process. They're here illegally. The only place that they deserve to go is to some country other than our country.
Yes.
And it's not a statistic. These are real lives. These are real families. There's whole neighborhoods in Los Angeles controlled by illegal alien Mexican street gangs. Entire neighborhoods where you have to live in fear because of individuals here illegally engaged in extortion and crime. Not to mention the fentanyl. You have cartels that have functional control over the entire northern territory in Mexico who are pumping fentanyl, lacing our drugs with this chemical. Children are ending up dead. They're going out to a weekend party. They think they're taking something safe, and they get a heart attack and they die by the thousands. So we're not going to apologize for doing something about that. And I just wish we lived in a country where the media gave 1/10 a damn as much about Americans who were murdered and brutalized and savagely killed, beaten to death, as they did about whether illegal aliens that we all agree are illegal aliens should get 1 million days in court and 1 million trials and 1 million this and 1 million that. There's 15 million illegal aliens that violently enter the country. If every one of them got the trial that you're asking for, it would take us centuries to remove them. Centuries! We've been talking about this in 300-400 years. Their great-great-great-grandchildren would be the ones representing them in court. That's how long it would take. Illegal aliens who come to our country have to be removed, and they have to be removed quickly, and that is an essential component of having something that we like to call a country.
Stephen, on the
One
matter
last question.
of, on the matter of visa restrictions, the president on his first day, the president on his first day in office signed an executive order calling on his administration, the Department of Homeland Security, State Department, DNI, to come up with a list of countries that did meet the United States' vetting standards and to potentially put full or partial visa restrictions on those countries. I just want to know what is the status of that report that was due to the administration last month? Do you have a list yet of countries?
So, the State Department has done the work that you're describing. Is currently going through the standard review process. I don't have any update beyond that, but I mean you're correct in your statement that this was a product that was called for at the beginning of the administration, and it's being worked on, and hope to have a further update for you soon. Last question.
If I may, President Trump continues to say that one of the best arguments for sending undocumented criminals to El Salvador is cost. When it comes to this White House considering sending U.S. citizens to El Salvador because of being criminals, is that the same argument? Cost.
Look at that profile right there. We got us a good one, man. We got us a good one. Before he answers that question, let me hit the super chat here from Slosher. Got some leaf bucks. Thank you, my friend. He says, let's see, he corrected this. Let me make sure I got it right. You don't hate journalists enough. You think you do, but you don't hate them as much as Stephen Miller. Indeed. These are, you know what? What if we had a JD Vance Stephen Miller ticket? Wouldn't that be fun? Imagine him doing this on the public stage. Just dedicate the vice president's office entirely to just sick Stephen Miller on all the people he wants out of the country and just let him go.
So the El Salvadorian deportation program is for illegal aliens, but I would also say that on the cost point, what we're referring to is the fact that long-term incarceration in the United States, probably costs like 100x what it costs to send somebody to El Salvador. So that's in other words, if an illegal alien commits a crime in this country and then has to go into our judicial and penal system, I don't know the exact numbers, and I'm assuming it's probably like 100x cost. But I'll just close by saying the amount of lives that we've saved since we showed up by shutting down the border, since President Trump issued his executive orders and began deporting criminals, is already in the thousands. And by the way, we've been out looking for the 500,000 children that Biden trafficked into this country. The stories we've already uncovered of sex trafficking and labor trafficking and child abuse is beyond imagination. 500,000 minors were smuggled into this country under the last administration, and the administration not only didn't do anything to prevent it, in every way they funded it, subsidized it, facilitated it, supported it, contributed to it, that if any American citizen did these things, they'd be in jail for life.
That's one thing that I hadn't even considered, the number of people who have not died as a consequence of the people who have been deported already. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who are very, very anxious. They want to see many more deportations. And did you hear the man? There's many, many more coming. Many more coming. But they are moving institutions that move at a snail's pace with maximal opposition against them. And despite that, they've still deported, I think last I saw was hundreds of thousands of explicitly of gang members. Actual murderers, rapists. These are people who are not in the country anymore. That in itself is a massive win. They've also completely shut off the border, so they're not coming in anymore. This is the first, like you get your order of operations here. First thing we have to do, completely shut down the border. Ensure that we now have a closed system problem. So we're going to put all the resources we can at first to shutting down the border. Then we're going to prioritize all the resources we can dedicated to removing the most violent, the most dangerous, the clearest threats. While we're doing all of this, we're going to make a big scene of it all and start encouraging and incentivizing as much self-deportation as possible. Because there's plenty of people who are in the country illegally who are perfectly harmless. These aren't violent people. They're just poor people trying to game the system in whatever way they can. But they're effectively harmless. They need to get out. They need to go. But they're not top priority, like everything is going to break because of them. You got to get your highest priorities done. And in the meantime, you got to build up your ranks. You got to purge all of the dissenters, purge all of the traitors, the subversives, replace them with good people, and then keep steadily cranking it up and cranking it up and cranking it up. And you've got to get through some of these early court cases to establish precedent for you to expand it even further. Remember, we're not even 100 days yet. Slutty Milk says, I wonder if self-deports are ramping up significantly. I would imagine they are. I've heard anecdotal stuff almost since Inauguration Day. I've heard anecdotal stuff constantly all over the place. People observing fewer people, fewer illegals. And lots of people, lots of libs telling very sad stories about their friends who are self-deporting. Yes, Slutty Milk says scare as many of them as possible to leave, so when the violent ones are gone, there are fewer non-violent ones remaining to deal with. Right. And then he was talking there at the end about the previous administration's efforts to actively import people And here's a video of him. Got one more GIGAJEW clip for you guys today. This is him talking to Hannity. This is one more of him talking about the role that the Libs were playing in actively importing these people.
Registered to vote, and it was by design. That's their belief.
It is absolutely by design. You've summarized it for your audience perfectly, Sean. This was not a loophole. The Biden administration, Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, devised a scheme to fly illegal aliens into the country and then to escort them en masse across the border by the millions, and to give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting booth. This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections. This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see, Sean, when you have California, a sanctuary state, that is refusing to turn over even illegal alien criminals and gang members to ICE. So these are illegal aliens in California who have been arrested by California police, by California law enforcement for serious crimes, for crimes against children, for felonies, for crimes that threaten public safety, and they are refusing to hand these criminal illegal aliens over to ICE. Instead, they're freeing them back into the cities to offend and offend again. By any definition, what California is doing is criminal. It is a violation of our laws. It is one of the most heinous things that I have seen in my entire life in Washington.
I wonder how many of these, I know there's good cops out there who in these various different districts are experiencing this, arresting gang members and watching them get let off or resisting, handing them over to ICE. I wonder to what extent you're going to start seeing some of those officers or agents who sign up for stronger deportation efforts. You can start increasing the ranks of the people who are actually engaging in the deportation. When you think about the scale of millions, tens of millions of people who need to be deported, and you think about the actual workforce required to do that, it's going to have to be bigger than what I can guarantee you. Whatever the workforce is right now, it needs to be much larger. You need the people who are tasked with going out and finding them, the people who are tasked with collecting them, bringing them in, maintaining them, shunting them along through this process, this aspect of the process, and that. Then the people who are actively, physically taking them to the border and then removing them over the border and so on. This is a massive, massive effort that has to be undertaken. I'm sure that they're going to be hiring for these types of roles for the entire term, at least, and probably beyond that. Phil Gibson said these idiot right-wing purity spiraling spurgs are worse for retarding the political zeitgeist than Douglas Murray. That's a very good point. Because ultimately, as repellent as Douglas Murray is, if anything, he just amps up the political zeitgeist even more. But when you have the ostensibly right-wing guys, the Trump's core base people, when they begin blackpilling, when they begin dragging down the vibe, they start counter-signaling. That's a huge momentum damager. And this is, I'm thinking about with the economic stuff. I kind of taken a little bit of a break from it on this show. We'll be back into it more tomorrow, I'm sure. But one thing that's becoming clear is over the next, it could be a matter of several weeks. I'd imagine it's more like probably 3 or 4 months. Things are going to get fairly bleak economically. There's going to be an abundance of headlines out there. Because a lot of my suspicion, I could be wrong on this. Something could happen, something could literally be happening right now on Twitter, and I wouldn't know about it, and it would completely blow everything I'm saying out of the water. But I suspect that we've seen a lot of big moves, big early moves that have been made. We saw all the turmoil with the stock market and the bond market and everything. And what I'm expecting here is that we're settling now into a glide path for several months, for several weeks, up to a few months, where we're gonna hit the bottom. We're gonna bottom out, and things are gonna be dark and difficult for a long time. But the bet that the administration is making is that they're laying the groundwork for a massive goose into 2026. So that by the time the midterms get around, we've taken all of our pain up front and things are flying high by 2026, by the midterms. But what this is going to require is they're making this bet. We get all this stuff done now. We weather it out. There's no, like, the only real big concern would be, I don't know, like an impeachment effort or something like that. Otherwise, this is just how things are going to be for the next couple of years, year and a half, until the midterms. So if all of the people who pinched their nose and voted Trump last November freak out and everything's gone haywire and I regret it, I'm seeing all the people now, I regret the vote I made for this reason or that reason, the other reason. These people all just deport themselves out of the MAGA constituency and, oh, he's lost me. I never expected him to do this much damage. He has no idea what he's doing. He's destroying all of our institutions, whatever. They're betting that by the time 2026 rolls around, and especially into the summer of 2026, we'll have pulled out of the doldrums and things are going to be soaring such that all of those fair weathers will come climbing back on board again. What they cannot have is even the core constituency bail on them. There needs to be this low simmer, maintaining the base, keeping it pumping, keeping it moving forward through all the hard times, seeing the long game that's being played here. We finally have an administration that's not just playing, let's get through this quarter, let's get to the next quarter, let's play little short-term games over and over and over again. We actually have an administration that's trying to plan for the long term. They're trying to play longer games. But that means they need the buy-in from the base to recognize the vision and to stay on board. Stick it out for 18 months. And there's going to be so many opportunities to black pill, to assume, oh, they've cucked out, they've lost the plot, they're completely taken over, subverted, whatever. And you can't fall for it. I think I've done a pretty good job over the past several months trying to delineate what the vision is, where they're going, where they're trying to steer this. And I'm going to keep doing it going forward. But I was thinking about this yesterday, that I'm bracing for things to get pretty dark and bleak. I'm not saying this to try to freak anyone out or demoralize them or anything. I'm just saying, honestly, like I see it. I think there's a good chance that things get rough, particularly economically. They've battened down the hatches well. They've maintained a face, but the press and the traitorous Republicans, the Libs, obviously, all of them, they're looking for that little chink in the armor that they could wedge into and amplify into a scandal. And so anything that they can amplify, that they can turn into a scandal that will even get the diehard MAGA base turned against him for any reason whatsoever, will have the effect of undermining all of the good stuff. To really get the most out of this administration and the turn that they're executing through this, we need as much consistent. We need the Trump base to maintain the House and the Senate and build up a larger majority in the midterms. We need the Trump candidate in 2028 to get elected, reelected or elected, and to continue to lock in the changes that are being made. That's the surest way to get the golden age. And I think that the golden age that's on offer, I think that there's a very good chance of it. But it's going to require that sustainability. Everyone's got the memory of a goldfish right now. There's a lot of people out there who project themselves as, you know, they're the super principled, disciplined, moral ones. But their mentality is like up and down and up and down. Sometimes they're like, oh yeah, great, let's get more of this. And then they're like, oh, Trump has done it now. I'm out. You know, he's really, I'm really getting concerned here. You know, I voted for these things and they're not happening fast enough. And I'm pretty close. I might just have to say that it was a mistake and that we're back to business as usual. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. If you're feeling tempted to post that or think that, recognize that the headlines are getting to you. That's exactly what it is. You're going to rationalize it to yourself in one way or the other, but the headlines are getting to you. They're poisoning you. And you're letting it happen. That's a sign you probably need to extract yourself from the discourse for a period of time. The things that the administration is changing, the things that the administration is changing are going to take a while to take root. They're actually being very disciplined about this. And the voter base is fickle. They want to see magical changes just manifested out of the ether, and they want to be living in the great grand golden age without having to put any hard work or any suffering for it. But we're going to go through a period of suffering. We may be in it already. So maybe not as long as you might expect, but there's going to be one. And it's going to be a test of fortitude. And this isn't just about like being faithful to some politician or something. I'm saying being faithful to the vision, recognizing what the vision is here and doing your part, whatever little tiny bit that is, even if it's just staying positive and upbeat and optimistic, doing your part to push us toward that vision. All of these like super serious, you know, I think I'm regretting my vote now, or, you know, I was hoping that this was going to happen, but then he did this thing and he did this thing and he did this thing. And this is just not at all what I was expecting. And it's just so bad. And, you know, I think it's just a loss. You know, I'm just going to have to chalk this presidency up as a failure. Like fucking 8 weeks in. Oh yeah, the presidency is a failure. What does that even mean? Like, I'm going to have to say that it was a failure. Okay. Like, you want me to put it on a sticky note and keep it next to my desk or something? Twitter guy says Trump's presidency was a failure 8 weeks in. The only purpose of these types of messages is to signal I can't control my own emotions. I'm not as disciplined as I like to think I am. I'm having a sad and I want to post something out there so everybody else can say, yes, I am having a sad as well. Do you want to have a sad with me? Let's all have a sad together. Yes, Douglas Archer. Exactly. It's spiritually feminine. I've said this before. I'll say it again. If you're feeling those things, go write them in your diary. Go tell your diary you're having a sad, write out all of your sad thoughts, and spare the rest of us. The rest of us don't need to know that, oh, your emotions are getting you some trouble right now. You saw a story that made you sad. Some journalist sat down and put something together to frame this in the worst light possible so that people like you who can't control your own emotions scroll past and say, oh, that makes me sad. Now I am sad. Trump is a failure because I'm sad. I voted that I would never be sad again, but now I'm sad. Trump failed. Speaking of journalists, from John LaFave, he says, you don't hate the media enough. Newsweek. Even Newsweek. Headline, veteran who has been in U.S. since he was 4 years old faces deportation. Wow, that's sad. He's been in the U.S. since he was 4 years old, and he was a veteran, and now he faces deportation? Here's the actual story on the second page of the article. On April 25, 2008, Barco opened fire on a house party crowd in Colorado Springs, striking a 19-year-old who was 5 months pregnant at the time in the leg, according to the Colorado Springs Gazette. He was convicted of 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 1 count of felony menacing and was sentenced to 52 years in prison. They keep doing this. They keep doing it, and people keep letting them get away with it. And how do you let them get away with it? You let them get away with it when you read the headline, think that it's gratifying. You're expecting, oh, there's going to be a bad story. There's going to be a bad story that's coming that makes me really upset. I'm going to feel like, oh, nobody's solving this problem. This problem's just going to go on unsolved forever. Oh, and there it is. There it is. I found it. There's the headline. The Supreme Court ruled against the administration. But then you go and you read down through the story and realize it's the exact opposite. Like the MS-13 guy from Maryland we just talked about. I've seen this happen way too many times now. Another one was, oh, they removed, Trump capitulated. He capitulated. He removed all the tariffs from the cell phones and the transistors and the semiconductors and everything with China. See, he capitulated. He's trying to help Tim Apple boost his stock. I told you, I knew it. I knew that Trump was ultimately just going to be a patsy for all the people that I hate. But then you learn, no, the tariffs haven't been removed from them. It was only the extra tariffs that were removed. And this is called negotiation. If your goal is not the complete and utter destruction of your opponent, then you don't do things that are going to cause the complete and utter destruction of them and cause needless pain to your own people as well. Because remember, the way that the American political system works, yes, Trump needs to make compromises to keep certain people on side. That's not capitulation. That's navigating the political system effectively. Yes, let him know. Winning negotiations is capitulating now. Seeing way too much of this. Everyone's just waiting. They all want to be the first person to recognize it. Oh, look, there. Trump capitulated here. I was the first person to recognize it. See, you can't say I'm a sucker. I recognized it before he did. I got my tweet off first. He's capitulating, and I'm the savvy one. I saw it. I saw it when it happened. I beat everyone to the punch. Look how clever I am. You don't get internet points for being the first one. Just pucker up your butthole a little bit and just keep pressing on. You don't need to look for that moment to try to confirm all your priors that, oh yeah, actually everything's going to be bad. I thought for a minute there things might be good, but no, everything's definitely going to be bad. This is toxic, not just to your own mind, but to all the people who are in your orbit, who are affected by this like really antsy, insecure, feminine energy emanating from a man. It's terrible. Here's a tweet from the Oversight Project. Taxpayer-funded NGOs are still assisting illegals in the journey to the U.S. Footage captured by Real Muckraker, what a handle, shows the NGOs Red Cross and Med Global offering U.S.-bound aliens advice and equipment for crossing the Darien Gap jungle from Colombia into Panama. A Red Cross psychologist gave our undercover advice, such as to bring 5 days of food for the jungle and showed our reporter common entry points into the Darien Gap. A worker from the NGO Med Global offered our undercover reporter water purification tablets and other gear to survive in the jungle. Instead of helping keep people safe from danger, the Red Cross has abandoned their mission in favor of a radical open borders agenda. This was tweeted on April 10th. This is further evidence here. I'll play the video. There's further evidence of how immigration, mass immigration, is a legitimate industry. It's not necessarily going to show up on the stock market or something. There isn't like a special index for tracking this, but it is a legitimate billion-dollar annual industry.
Mi misión simplemente es darte algunas estrategias porque sabemos que hacer el camino hacia México o hacia Estados Unidos por esta ruta tiene algunos riesgos, ¿sí? En la selva del Darién hay unos riesgos. Si te han dicho que las personas se demoran 3 días en la selva, tú vas a proyectar 5 días en la selva, ¿sí? Y si te han dicho que no hay alimentos en la selva, tú vas a proyectar llevar 5 días de alimentación para la selva, ¿listo? Sí. Entonces, a ese riesgo que es no tener alimento, pues tú lo vas a poder compensar preparándote, llevando alimento para 5 días, ¿listo?
We sent one of our undercover reporters to Nuking, Colombia, the staging point for the infamous Darien Gap human smuggling corridor, and found that US-funded NGOs are still actively encouraging aliens to undertake the illegal journey to the United States. The footage we obtained shows a Red Cross psychologist and staff from Med Global an NGO that is in coalition with USAID and the United Nations, offering advice and material aid for crossing the Darien Gap. It is clear that the intent of both groups was to assist our undercover reporter in illegally heading north to the United States.
Vienen dos. El pequeño, lo que son de salvavidas, todo lo que tiene que ver con primeros auxilios, el antibacterial, bloqueador solar, jabón yodado, crema en caso que tengan alguna quemadura en la piel, no en la cara, ¿cierto? Para que lo tengan presente. Y el otro trae lo que es agua, sopas instantáneas, barras de cereal, unas pastillas potabilizadoras de agua que son las más pequeñitas. Esas pastillitas en 1 litro de agua agregan una pastillita, esperan media hora y el agua la pueden tomar, y suero en sobre. Eso lo disuelven en 1 litro de agua también.
Ok, gracias. La pastilla que dices que es como para limpiar la agua.
Son unas chiquiticas que están ahí.
Oh, ok.
Mira, yo soy el psicólogo, ¿cierto?
Sí.
No estás aquí porque estés loco, sino porque cada situación que nosotros vivimos trae una emoción.
Sí.
Entonces, estar acá como migrante, como me lo dijiste, no es sencillo. Entonces, mi misión simplemente es darte algunas estrategias. Sin embargo, pues hay una...
They have a psychologist to prepare them psychologically. This illegal immigration process you're going through, that's going to be tough. That's going to be real hard. It's difficult to be an immigrant here. So we're here to help. We're here to help your mind. Each little thing you can add to this whole process justifies additional grant funding. This looks real nice on an expense sheet. Your list of expenses. Oh, we have our psychologist to help the poor brown people. We need $500 million for our psychologist.
Unas cosas que me parece importante que tengas presente para tu seguridad, ¿sí? Sí. Porque sabemos que hacer el camino hacia México o hacia Estados Unidos por esta ruta tiene algunos riesgos, ¿sí? El dinero siempre debe permanecer guardado, ¿sí? No, pues trata de no evidenciarlo mucho. En la selva del Darién hay unos riesgos, ¿sí? Te han dicho que las personas se demoran 3 días en la selva, tú vas a proyectar 5 días en la selva, ¿sí? Y si te han dicho que no hay alimentos en la selva, tú vas a proyectar llevar 5 días de alimentación para la selva, ¿listo? Sí. Entonces, a ese riesgo que es no tener alimento, pues tú lo vas a poder compensar preparándote, llevando alimento para 5 días, ¿listo? Entonces, mira, tú estás en Neko Cliff.
At this point, the Red Cross psychologist began showing our undercover reporter the different routes from Nakokli to the entrance of the Darien Gap. Keep in mind that the Darien Gap is one of the most dangerous drug and human smuggling routes in the world.
Mira, ¿sí ves? Este es Neko Cliff, ¿sí? Sí. ¿Qué es lo que hace la gente? La gente se va para Candí o para Capurganá, ¿sí? Que sigue siendo Colombia, mira, esto sigue siendo así. Y de acá, pues empieza a irse por toda la selva, ¿sí? Al lado queda el punto de atención y orientación al migrante. Podrías preguntar si hay un mapa.
Oh, ok.
Sí, aquí al ladito, listo. Hay un comedor comunitario, te dan la comida de manera gratuita. Ya sabes, Cruz Roja es un lugar de protección, UNICEF es un lugar de protección. Te nos dicen que allá hay actores armados, que allá hay gente que nos puede hacer daño, ¿cierto? Sí. Pues trata de juntarte con las personas.
Red Cross organizations have a long history of involvement with the migration aid industry. To cite just a few examples among many, the American Red Cross received $4.6 million from USAID for health and WASH activities for Venezuelan aliens between 2019 and 2022, and $1.6 million from the Department of State for COVID programs for aliens between 2021 and 2023. Red Cross organizations along Central American human smuggling pathways not only provide medical assistance, but even hand out maps detailing illicit smuggling routes directly to the United States. And Med Global, which operates side by side with the Red Cross in Nakokli, Colombia, describes itself as being partnered with USAID, the United Nations, and the United States Congress. The Red Cross chapter exposed in this video was the Colombian Red Cross, which received at least $100,000 from the United States government in 2024. Furthermore, the American Red Cross and the International Committee of the Red Cross have received hundreds of thousands and millions of federal taxpayer dollars, respectively, for work in Colombia. It is time to restore fiscal responsibility and rein in this weaponization and abuse of taxpayer money being used to support legal immigration.
So this is a good example of story. I'm not saying someone could say I'm straw manning or something. I'm saying I'm using this illustratively, that this is a good example of a story where someone might look at this and say, oh, see, they defunded USAID and this is still going. So, the Trump administration hasn't stopped this, so they're a failure and they're on notice. Do you think Stephen Miller can sleep at night knowing that this is happening? It's been less than 100 days. The Red Cross has been around for how long? It's going to take a long time for people to come on board, recognizing the fact that the Red Cross needs to be nuked from orbit and its leadership needs to, well, I can't say some of those things on a public channel. You know what I mean? This is a step in the process. The Oversight Project publishes this video. This video gets a bunch of views. I play it on shows like this. Other people pick it up. Other people start talking about it. And then we get someone in the administration that starts talking about Red Cross facilitating an invasion into the country. Yes, I'm sure USAID was a huge amount of their funding, but it's a freaking Red Cross. I remember 15 years ago hearing about some terrible, earthquake or a hurricane or something somewhere, and I could send a text message that would automatically add $10 to my bill for the month and would donate $10 to Red Cross. And I did it, and I was like, look at me being a great global citizen. Red Cross has, I'm sure, a tremendous number of funding avenues that are all going to have to be attacked. You're going to have to be defunded from every single angle. And it's probably going to take various different acts of Congress, and it's going to take sustained campaigns against it. A lot of these things are going to take a little while. So the existence of a video like this, the existence of seeing that this is still happening, is not a sign that it's all over. Well, I mean, depends on how you look at it. It's a sign that this sort of thing is on its way to all over. But we are permanently back. Anytime that you feel the temptation to think, it's over, remember, quite simply, that we are back. We are so back. Here's a list. Over 30 items. Shout out to Dave Collum for getting this on my radar. He says, this is an amazing list of climate change wrap-ups or terminations. I can't help but wonder how many were feeding off the USAID teat. So 30 items here, over 30 items. Evidence that the climate scam is collapsing. The climate scam is imploding right now. Of course, there are still plenty of remaining pockets of climate cultism, but the whole movement is crumbling. It's the most massive scientific fraud in human history, and it will take significant time to completely die, but make no mistake, it is dying. In no particular order, here are some updates on the climate scam implosion. Please keep scrolling. Huge. Number one, a powerful climate alliance of the World Economic Forum, major companies, the UN, and banks is at an end. And this is a reference to this from Disclosed TV. A network of the World Economic Forum, major companies, the United Nations, and banks wanted to force the global economy to become climate neutral. For years, companies were forced into submission, but now the undemocratic structure is collapsing. That's number one. Number two, Bill Gates is giving up on climate change. Breakthrough Energy, a joint venture between Bill Gates and a handful of other billionaires, is slashing much of its policy staff. Number three, NASA GISS funding terminated. New NASA chief will wind down climate alarm shop. Number four, delicious straight talk from US EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Quote, we are driving a dagger through the heart of climate change religion. Number five, wonderful straight talk from US Energy Secretary Chris Wright. Quote, net zero by 2050 is just nonsense, end quote. He suggests climate change alarmism is a quasi-cult religion. This is the Energy Secretary. The Tories have ditched net zero by 2050. Remarkably, Just Stop Oil just announced, quote, the end of soup on Van Goghs, cornstarch on Stonehenge, and slow marching in the streets. Number eight, Schellenberg and Pielke Jr. Quote, climate change is going to fade from view like overpopulation did. Lack of protest over Trump's action on energy shows how little anyone ever really cared about global warming. Number nine, one of the longest running climate cases, Juliana v. United States, just ended in rejection at the Supreme Court. Talked about that a couple weeks ago. A climate startup, number 10. A climate startup that boasted a roster of celebrity backers and arranged carbon credits for Meta, Microsoft, and other large companies just filed bankruptcy. Number 11, BlackRock chief Larry Fink mentioned climate a total of 29 times in his 2020 letter to CEOs, then 0 times in his 2025 letter. The chief villain to so many people has revealed himself to be a chihuahua easily brought to heel. Number 12, Michael Mann is now losing in court to Mark Stein. Number 13, SEC votes to end defense of climate disclosure rules. Number 14, new director of national intelligence Tulsi Gabbard failed to even mention climate change as a national security threat. Number 15, the warmest International Energy Agency just remembered that we need hydrocarbon fuels. Number 16, Greenpeace was just hit with a $667 million judgment. Number 17, Britain's banks are quietly distancing themselves from net zero commitments. Number 18, warmist Sabine Hassenfelder laments that, quote, everyone is giving up on climate goals. Global businesses are done pretending they care about carbon neutrality. Number 19, New Jersey's massive lawsuit accusing the oil industry of causing climate change was dismissed with prejudice. Number 20, Google is no longer claiming to be carbon neutral. Number 21, the left, quote, went from wanting EV mandates to now burning those same EVs in the blink of a cultural eye. Number 22, Indonesia casts doubt on Paris Climate Accord after Donald Trump's exit. Number 23, Australian pension funds are backing away from climate pledges too. Number 24, Davos speaker specifically lists climate first as a cause that is simply being gradually kind of marginalized. Number 25, EU is exploring a weaker 2040 climate goal. Number 26, Bloomberg headline, quote, years of climate action demolished in days. Number 27, after lots of episodes guffawing at climate realists, the Climate Deniers Playbook podcast went dark without explanation in October of 2024. Number 28, facing increasing pushback, many warmist scientists have fled from X. NASA's Gavin Schmidt is one example. Number 29, in recent months, lots of companies have been abandoning climate goals. Air New Zealand is one example. Number 30, Greta Thunberg's last X school strike post was in October of 2024. This Fridays for Future social media feed hasn't been updated in almost 3 years. Last year, Climate Nexus, a warmist organization which pushed climate hysteria for over a decade and had tens of employees, suddenly threw in the towel. Number 32, just over a year ago, the Daily Kos Climate Denier Roundup page, which spewed climate scam propaganda incessantly, 2,200 posts for many years, abruptly stopped posting. And 33, Joe Rogan, with his huge audience, was a full-on warmist in 2018, but now routinely scoffs at the climate scam. We've come a long way since Nancy Pelosi and Newt Gingrich sat down to endorse Al Gore's climate scam in 2008. After discovering so many massive high-profile COVID lies in recent years, large numbers of people are asking themselves, what else are they lying about? And the answer is just about everything. Elites tried for the Great Reset, but they got a Great Awakening. This is from Tom Nelson, at Tom A. Nelson on Twitter, co-founder of Gorilla Science. And a big part, this is more than just, oh, some lib a bailiwick has been terminated. This was the entire basis for the new global monetary system. The whole idea with this impending sovereign bond crisis, it was intentionally created. It was at the very least, and maybe that's saying a little too strong. Maybe I'll moderate here. I am the moderate centrist. It was allowed to persist. It was facilitated and allowed to progress because the goal was bankrupt everyone, engineer a complete and total global collapse, and reboot the system with a central bank, a global central bank digital currency that is essentially collateralized by forests and uses climate credits as tokens. So this collapsing, the whole climate agenda collapsing, means that entire Davos project has crashed into a cliff. Just like Wile E. Coyote style. Of course, they're going to have some other thing, but they're back to the drawing board. Here's another one. This from at Amuse. USAID, David Hogg's gun control group, had a drastic collapse in donations via Act Blue immediately following Trump's closure of USAID. As a result, March for Our Lives has had to lay off almost all of its staff. David Hogg's gun control group, March for Our Lives, lays off majority of full-time staff. Isn't that an interesting coincidence? USAID gets closed. David Hogg's NGO collapses. And Data Republican comes in and drags the young man. Replying back in February 20, he said, "Fuck Donald Trump, fuck Elon Musk, and fuck the Federalist Society judges who enable him." And she replied, "Is that why you're ramping up donation requests for your PAC? Because its funding has plummeted by more than half year over year? It looks like an expensive operation with $307,000 spent on IT, $75,000 on conferences, $267,000 on insurance, and a conveniently vague $287,000 in other expenses, just below the 10% itemization threshold. And what do you subscribe to that costs $50,000? She's got all of his numbers here. Prior year, $7 million, down to 3.46. And look at this down here at the bottom, dues and subscriptions, $50,000. $50,000 worth of dues and subscriptions. What a fascinating number. $267,000 for insurance? It's wild. Like everyone said, oh, all these NGOs are just federally funded. They're just laundering money. But as time goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer just how much of this whole thing was just entirely fake. Completely fake. BLM, the whole gun control, immigration, like basically any core lib platform issue was entirely fake and astroturfed. And a lot of it was extremely effective. And so there's a lot of people who believe these completely fake and astroturfed things. But they could just as easily be made to believe completely different fake and astroturfed things. Here's one, an example of a lib. Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn backs Trump's tariffs.
Oh, these tariffs are getting out of control.
Oh, yeah. The tariffs are getting out of control. All the everyday items that will cost Americans more following Donald Trump's global tariffs. But here's the thing with tariffs is the goal of tariffs is that if it costs more for people to bring their products in, then they'll build them here.
Yes,
right?
That's part of it, yeah.
So it's kind of a long-term play. It's going to take a while.
It's going to be bumpy for a while,
right?
But that's if it works.
Right.
So we'll see, but it might take 10 years.
Right. If we don't try this, though, then I think it's a wrap.
Oh, you think just go for it, bite the belt and go for it?
I do, because I think at this point, even from my own perception, we'd probably on this tour, this comedy tour, we've been in probably the top 200 cities, like size-wise in America, maybe even more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, there's nothing there.
Yes.
It's empty downtowns.
Oh, yeah. It's boarded up.
We're in Amarillo. It's empty downtown. Shreveport, Louisiana, it was empty downtown. Toledo, Ohio, right? It's getting a little bit better there. And that's just a few. I mean, a lot of places. Montgomery, just empty.
Yep.
And so you start to be like, nothing's going to, there's nothing coming that's going to make that different, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe that's just how society changes and evolves, and we just end up with like 7 big cities in America, and the rest of it is just like rural land where people live and have great lives, but they're not in like a city.
Yeah.
And these things fall by the wayside.
Isn't it interesting that even Theo Vaughn gets it? Even Theo Vaughn. He's a smart guy, but he's also Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn gets it. He's been getting a lot of things lately. We might have to do another Theo Vaughn segment here in the near future. He's been saying some interesting things. But here's another thing from Amuse. Rare earth. If the U.S. redirected $15 billion from foreign aid to jumpstart the domestic rare earth refining industry and Trump invokes the Defense Production Act, the U.S. could meet 100% of its rare earth demand domestically in 7 to 10 years. Reading from the article, America's Rare Earth Reckoning, a $15 billion path to independence. This weekend, Beijing again made its geopolitical intentions unmistakably clear. China has halted the export of certain rare earth minerals, citing vague national interests. But the real message was not lost on anyone paying attention. China is prepared to weaponize its near monopoly on the minerals that power our missiles, electric vehicles, semiconductors, and satellites. Rare earth elements are not rare in geology, but they are scarce in sovereignty. Today, the United States has almost none. Despite producing roughly 45,000 metric tons of rare earth oxide concentrate from its mines in 2024, The United States refined only 1,300 metric tons of usable rare earth metals and compounds. Yet our national demand exceeds 6,600 metric tons annually. That means more than 80% of what we use is imported, and most of those imports come directly or indirectly from China. It's not merely dependence, it's exposure, and it's unacceptable. One U.S. company has invested approximately $2 billion so far into domestic rare earth production. MP Materials is building the separation capacity at Mountain Pass, California. That investment has paid dividends. It enabled the first domestic production of separated neodymium praseodymium oxide in decades. Still, it has taken nearly $2 billion to generate only 1,300 metric tons of annual refined output. While some of that capital established fixed infrastructure that can now be scaled more efficiently, the gap between production and need remains daunting. Let us not misunderstand the stakes. These minerals are the sinew of the modern economy. From hypersonic missiles to wind turbines, from F-35s to smartphones, the global supply chain for rare earths is both a marvel of specialization and a strategic liability. Until now, the United States has tried to thread the needle with a mixture of private initiative and limited public support. But in the face of Chinese leverage and clear belligerence, we must now choose decisiveness over delicacy. Fortunately, the solution is within reach. Based on capital investment and production benchmarks already observed, we estimate that it would require between $10 and $15 billion to fully replace America's dependence on foreign rare earths. That includes not just light rare earth processing, but also facilities to separate heavy elements like dysprosium and terbium, which are crucial for military-grade permanent magnets. These are not speculative projections. They're derived from real-world data from existing operations, such as Mountain Pass and emerging Department of Defense-backed facilities in Texas. To place this figure in context, consider that the U.S. government spends nearly twice that amount annually on foreign aid. We're not talking about reinventing industrial alchemy. We're talking about building separation plants, alloy production lines, and magnet factories. These are one-time capital investments with decades-long return horizons. The bottleneck is not mineral availability. The bottleneck is political inertia, environmental overregulation, and the belief that markets alone can secure national defense. This is where leadership matters. We need a moonshot. We need a Manhattan Project for rare earths, and we need it now. Note, political inertia. That's a Gordian knot that is being slashed at the moment. Environmental overregulation, another Gordian knot being slashed. And the belief that the markets alone can secure national defense. Well, fortunately, we are not governed by libertarians. President Trump should declare a national emergency and invoke the Defense Production Act to streamline permitting, suspend counterproductive environmental barriers, and fast-track critical infrastructure. Just as President Eisenhower built the interstate highway system under the auspices of national security, so too should this administration rebuild the rare earth supply chain as a matter of strategic sovereignty. Let China howl. Let the bureaucrats wring their hands, but let us get on with the business of building. Some will object, as they always do, that the free market should determine what and when to build. Makes me want to ding my bell. Whenever anyone talks about the free market now, I just want to ding my bell. But this is not a matter of free markets, it's a matter of free nations. Without access to rare earths, our capacity to produce cutting-edge weapons, satellites, and energy infrastructure will be impaired, and our geopolitical leverage diminished. The market cannot fix that because the market has already been captured by a command economy that exploits its dominance as a weapon. Our choice is not between market and state, it is between dependence and determination. Others will argue that $15 billion is a hefty sum, but it's a rounding error in the federal budget. If we can afford to fund gender programs in Pakistan, surely we can afford to mine and refine strategic minerals in Nevada and Texas. If we can defend the borders of Ukraine, we can secure our own industrial base. And if we can pay federal contractors to measure carbon footprints, we could pay American workers to separate rare earths. Trump's administration, already stacked with capable and patriotic leaders, Marco Rubio at State, Pete Hegseth at Defense, and Scott Bessent at Treasury, is uniquely positioned to execute such a plan. Elon Musk, now leading the Department of Government Efficiency, understands the engineering, the urgency, and the innovation required. The pieces are on the board. What we need now is a commander who will move them. This is not merely industrial policy, it's a test of political will. In the Cold War, we did not debate whether to produce uranium. We did not outsource our rocket parts to the Soviet Union. We built, we sacrificed, we won. That ethic, that urgency must return. If we begin now, we could, within a decade, produce all the rare earth materials we need on U.S. soil. That means freedom from foreign blackmail. That means control over the supply chains that power our economy and defend our sovereignty. There is no reason America cannot lead in rare earth production. The geology is here, the talent is here, the capital is waiting. What has been missing is the political courage to say, enough. President Trump, the time has come. Call the question, declare the emergency, fund the solution. Let us secure our rare earth future before Beijing shuts the door for good. And I'll add again to this that my operating principle is and has been that this trade war between the U.S. and China is not strictly about U.S. versus China, and also that the goal here is not to completely destroy China. It's not to completely kneecap them. It's not to reduce them to poverty. No, it's to negotiate a deal that is mutually beneficial on both sides. Both are engaged. Both are locked into, the U.S. and China are locked into this downward spiraling suicide pact. Them oversupplying and us undersupplying. And we need to moderate these things down. So it's not going to be America is going to onshore 100% of its manufacturing. That's not going to be the case. I expect America is probably still going to continue running a slight deficit for the foreseeable future. But it's not going to be all of this deficit spending and all of this foreign ownership of treasuries and ability to manipulate the market and investing heavily in our asset, in our stock market, buying all of our assets. We're not going to maintain this trajectory. There's going to be a negotiation. It's going to wind up benefiting both countries. But Xi is honestly in a tougher spot because he's already dealing with a recession in his country, and the political pressures in China, given Chinese culture, are different than the political pressures in the United States. And given the historical relationship between the countries, they have plenty of reasons to be suspicious. They might trust the world that Trump envisions. They might be fine with that, but they have to grapple with the reality that if Trump is a single term, and who knows what happens, and you get President AOC or whatever down the line, then everything's back to as it was before, and China needs to be able to protect and ensure their own national sovereignty from the globalists. So there has to be tough negotiations here, and Trump needs to do something dramatic to ensure that the negotiations happen. But then he also needs to provide Xi an out where Xi can begin to negotiate in a way that allows him to save face and makes it look like he's the one extracting the concessions himself. So ultimately, you've got two big personalities, two guys with a lot of political concerns they have to manage in their own right. And so ultimately, there's going to be a negotiation. And I'm telling you, when that negotiation ultimately happens and when there's some sort of an agreement, there's going to be a lot of people with headlines ready to run talking about how Xi bent Trump over and Trump capitulated and he totally conceded and he completely lost. And I'm telling you, those people, those think pieces are being written as we speak. They're ready to deploy immediately. And there are suckers out there, probably some guys that you like and respect, who are going to take that and run with it. They're already predisposed to. It's not going to have anything to do with the actual content of it. They're not going to do the due diligence to go try to understand all the implications here. They're going to be looking for some reason to lose faith in Trump. Looking for some reason to be the smart guy who pulls the ripcord first and says, I saw it ahead of time. I'm not a sucker. You're not going to get me. You're not going to catch me lacking. I'm a smart guy. And I'll just promise to you that that's not going to be what happens over here. Phil says Trump will glaze Xi like Bukele glazed Trump, and that's okay. It's ass-kissing for the deal. Yes, yes. Night Kenny Day, thanks for dropping in for the late night lab. We're already into the morning. We got our morning lab has returned, and I've still got a little bit left to go here. So let's play this clip here. This is Bannon talking to Ed Dowd, who's an interesting guy. He's come onto my radar here recently, former BlackRock guy. But here is this ought to get you kind of hyped.
Ed Dowd, your thoughts are. Thank you for coming on. You're in Hawaii today, Ed?
It's 12:12 here.
Okay. My God, you're such a. I'm gonna have to think about that. I may need some Hawaiian time. Sir,
come visit.
Your thoughts?
Well, look, two things. We're still analyzing the tariffs, but there's a lot of confusion, a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of takes and emotions. It could have been communicated a little better, but it looks like the Trump administration decided to put the end goal out there. We want zero. We want deficits to be zero. This is how we calculate the tariff, and let's now come to the table and figure this out, rather than go into all the legal documents, looking at all, how much time it would take to like negotiate every little product and every little reciprocal tariff. This is just a way to get people to the table, and I think it's going to yield some benefits down the line. This is a dynamic process, but there's a lot of confusion. I think it's a way to cut through all the time it would take to negotiate with each country one by one on reciprocal tariffs. It's like, this is the end goal, and let's start and come to the table and see what we can talk about. That's what I think the purpose ultimately was, and I think that's the goal. It actually saves a lot of time, because I think they would have been bogged down for months trying to figure this out. That's opinion number one. Opinion number two, on the economy, the stock market. Look, fraudulent elections have catastrophic consequences, as you've often said. The last 2 to 3 years of this economy have been fraudulent. And we have a stock market bubble, all-time valuations. Trump inherited that. It was coming down regardless. And his policies were going to shut off the liquidity spigot from the government, and this was bound to happen. Tariffs are the reason du jour. But quite honestly, we were topping out since December. There were warning signs in the market. The AI bubble burst in February, and now the trade tariffs have just fed on it. This is phase one, stock market bubble bursting. If I'm a betting man, we're getting close to some sort of washout low and maybe a massive recovery as more and more countries come to the table. So this is phase one. We'll have a relief rally, but then we're going to have to deal with the housing crisis that was caused by the aliens. They priced a lot of people out of the market. We're going to have a housing correction, a housing recession. So, the Trump administration is realigning the economy, restructuring the economy. I think home prices going down will be a good thing for the middle class. And this is very painful to the financial elite, but to the average man, as long as he keeps his job, should have more opportunities down the road. But it's not going to be pretty. It's going to take a long time. But it had to be done, because the other way was a currency crisis and a loss of reserve currency status if we kept going the way we were going.
So the same story. It's going to be a time of there's going to be a brief time of hardship. A lot of things have to get reset, but this is the administration is I'm perpetually grateful to the people in this administration who are willing to do the hard work on this right now, to actually take the slings and arrows, and they're going to get absolutely bludgeoned and dragged for months. But they have a vision of where they're taking this. And it was necessary. It had to happen. As Scott Besson said, we're avoiding the financial crisis. So we're going to have a financial crisis, but we're avoiding the financial crisis that would have come. It would have been the Godzilla of financial crises. There's going to be turmoil. It's going to be rough, but there's going to be a tremendous number of jobs coming available. And at the end of this period of who knows exactly how it's all going to go, but 6 to 18 months within that window, as things begin turning around, this country is going to look so different. It's difficult to even, like, you could speculate, you can imagine and daydream and stuff, but really it's time to knuckle down, grit your teeth, and bear it through the turmoil. And then position yourself, recognize where things are going. That's what I'm trying to do here with the show is point you guys in the direction that things are going, so that you can begin to, if you're ready to change careers, or if you're in an industry that's adjacent to something else where you can pivot. There's going to be so many opportunities coming down the line, to the point where for the vast majority of people, there's no point in following the politics of everything. We're moving into an era where you're going to have to pay less attention to all the politics, because there's going to be so much opportunity building up around you. So be prepared. Now, if you wanted to, if you've been thinking it's time to change careers, now would be the time to be prepared for change, moving into something based on your own skill set, your own connections, your own education, or whatever, an angle for all the jobs that are coming. Be a very good time to become very familiar with how AI works, Which really, I was thinking about this the other day. Everyone has, there's the people who are like, oh, AI is going to be Skynet and it's going to take over the world. And then there's the people who are like, oh, it's just like some chat bot. And what good is that? I think I don't understand any of the actual mechanics of what's happening behind the scene, but conceptually, I understand what it is when I'm engaging with there's like AI and there's automation, and then you can blend the two. Ultimately, it's really sophisticated querying. It's like if I'm having a conversation with Grok, I'm saying, Grok, go get this information to me and bring it back and present it to me. This isn't me outsourcing my brain to Grok. It's automating the process of going and querying all of the data that's out there and going and trying to accumulate it all for myself. And so it's a really sophisticated query. And then you can begin automating the querying that's happening. And once you start automating the automating, I can understand why people think, oh, there's going to be like some great singularity moment. Because there's like a meta process that develops here where you can begin. Imagine you have this thing that you're doing. You have a tool that you use to solve a project, to solve a problem. And you're working on that. And then you figure out a way to automate that tool, whatever it is, whatever the problem is. You get a tool that automates the solving of that problem. So then you can take your attention away from solving that problem and you can go solve a different problem. And then you get a tool that begins to automate that problem. So now you've got two automation processes that are happening adjacent to one another, which allows you to go do a third thing. So now you're doing three jobs at the same time. You've developed a tool that will automate this process, and then you've developed a tool that will automate this process, and then you can develop a tool that will automate this process, and so on. What this is going to do is it's going to expand the capacity of what human beings can do. Just like every other big technological development, all the Luddites come out and they say, oh, it's going to be the end of the world. We're going to destroy all of the lamp lighting jobs. If we have street lights, then all the guys who go around lighting the lamps every night, they're going to be put out of business. The same story that happens over and over and over again. So everyone says, oh, well, all the jobs are going to come back, but they're just going to go to like AI and automation, and there's going to be robots that do the jobs, and we're just going to be left there like with our dick in our hands with nothing to do. This is the exact same centuries-old Luddite argument. No, what you're describing is human beings, the smart human beings with agency are going to figure out how to use these sophisticated automation technologies to begin automating the more routine things that they have to do, which means you can now do those jobs and other jobs at the same time, expending the same amount of energy. Now, the danger would be that if you imagine this process, you could think of it as just like on a less abstract, just simple level where you have like some old man who lives on his property and he creates a little machine that automates the getting water from his well. And then you have another little machine that automates the digging this hole, and then another little machine that automates these other things. So instead of him having to go do each one of these tasks individually, he could build these machines that will do these tasks for him. So he can get more and more things done in the same period of time. Now, the danger is, especially if you begin chaining those together. Now, what happens when you take this task that's being automated and you can figure out a way to chain it to this task that's being automated, and they can amplify each other? And then do that more and more and more and more, you get this amplifying effect. Now, when things go sideways, in the same way that if you have like we saw with this basis trade thing, when you get hyper leveraged in a trade that has a really narrow margin, if you get sudden action on interest rates on that margin, it's going to blow up that entire leverage position. So these are the sorts of risks that are out there. We're now getting really sophisticated abilities to automate and to automate the automating. And it's that meta thing that makes people's brains break. Because you can imagine the like sudden hockey sticking effect where you get the exponential multiplicative effect from the automator automating the automating. But practically speaking, what it's going to mean for us is that the cost of lots of different tasks and activities is going to go to effectively zero, which has major deflationary effects. So there's going to be a lot of inflation that comes from there's going to be like secular inflation from all these other vectors. But simultaneously with all of the automation, this is all AI is. AI is like really sophisticated automation. So as you get more and more things being automated, it's going to drive down the cost of doing so many things, doing and producing so many things, which is going to expand the human capacity to do other things, because those things are going to become doable where they weren't before, simply because whether it's from a cost basis or from a time basis or whatever it is, it's going to create opportunities. You lose some opportunities, but those problems now get solved really cheaply, and they can be solved without monitoring. So individual human beings can start doing more than one thing at a time. And furthermore, using specifically the chatbot like Grok, you can as a person who, if you're not, maybe you're not that smart, or you have to be smart enough to know how to use the tool. It's not, there's the other narrative is that this is going to be a thing that just makes people dumb because they just outsource everything to the chatbot. But you have to know how to prompt it, which means you have to have the agency, and you have to have the intuition, and you have to have the insight to use the thing properly. But once you're doing that, then you can actually employ the AI agent to help you discover the problem that you want to solve. And then you can put it to the task of helping you solve that problem. So you can create the job yourself. And you might, prior to the existence of that sort of technology, you might not have ever even thought of that problem being solvable. I've started using it as just kind of like a, what did I say we were talking about this in the Discord earlier this evening. It's like an interactive journal. Imagine you have a journal where you sit and you like jot down your thoughts, or these like questions, persistent questions that are on your mind, or like maybe you're trying to reason through something, but it's kind of hard to do. And you'd sit here and you're writing the paper, and you kind of try to put it in front of you and sort of understand the problem you're looking at. Well, now I'll just use Grok for it, and I'll say, hey, Grok, here's the things that I'm thinking about. Here's this, like it's like, here you go, pattern matching. It's really good at identifying patterns. So it can enhance your pattern detection capability. But again, you have to know how to prompt it with the right questions. You have to sort of see the thing, but not see the details, and you can use it to help you flesh out the details. And in this way, this is where I've heard some people say that using these AI tools is like an automatic IQ boost for the right person. Because IQ is a lot about pattern matching. And so your effective IQ can go up, because you may not innately be able to pick out the patterns, but you know how to prompt Grok to find the patterns for you, and then play with the implications on it. I really encourage the price of, I would pay 2 or 3 times the current price of Grok to have access to it. That's how good it is. I can understand why they keep raising the price on it, because that's how useful it is. Anyways, here is a little bit from Indian Bronson. Here's just a little bit of what your country loses when it outsources the factory production of everything it needs.
The beating heart of a modern nation. Billions of pounds of steel every year. Millions of pounds of glass and aluminum, of rubber and plastic, of copper and lead and zinc alloys. Millions of yards of fabrics, all being cut and stamped and sewn. Components being readied for assembly. All destined to serve the transportation needs of a modern society that has grown and prospered in large part because of the automobile and what it has allowed people to do. From 20 different fabricating plants they come, from thousands of supplier companies, components of all sizes and shapes, arriving in 26 assembly plants here and in Canada, each part to be assembled together with the next, quickly, efficiently, until finally there emerges the engineering and manufacturing miracle that is a modern automobile body. One new body every 3 seconds, 1,200 every working hour by one company alone. How does it happen? Year after year, this ever-continuing cycle of new high-quality automobile bodies for General Motors cars? The answer can be found by looking to the bodybuilders from Fisher. An automobile body is the part from the engine compartment to the rear end. It is the passenger compartment, the part people see and touch and ride in. And it must be designed with people in mind. In a world of rapidly changing technology, there are many opportunities for talented men to create new design concepts for comfort and safety. Seeking new ideas is really where the bodybuilders from Fisher begin their cycle. While this year's automobiles are being manufactured on the assembly line, people in the advanced engineering department are working far into the future, exploring new avenues of design, new ways of doing a job, new concepts that increase safety. Innovation is the key word of this group of bodybuilders. Experimentation with various types of restraint systems, perhaps. Always seeking to find the best way to assure freedom from injury for every passenger in the car, even the youngest tot. Studies into the anatomy of the human body itself to find where restraints inside the car can and should be placed.
These guys here are like, these bald guys, probably like 40. This guy's like 43. Look at these strapping young lads. Back when we had a country.
Where restraints inside the car can and should be placed. A new design that will simplify construction of an important part of the car body and at the same time make it stronger. Experimentation with new materials, new manufacturing concepts, new computer techniques for analyzing test results. The annual model change permits improvements to be incorporated in new cars as quickly as they are tested and proved. But a constant challenge is cost. How can a better quality, safer automobile body be built without increasing its cost to its customer, especially in the face of rising costs of materials and labor? Working to meet this challenge requires a high degree of engineering creativity. It is an environment where every man is encouraged to submit ideas, and every idea is considered. While
we need to bring back the short-sleeved, the short-sleeved button-up white shirt with the tie. This is an all-time look. This is when you know guys are doing something serious. They got a tie, they got the short-sleeved white shirt, you got the mustache. This is when you know they're doing real work.
The advanced engineers at Fisher are exploring new concepts. The stylists are putting their ideas on paper. They develop a basic styling package for each General Motors car, a creative concept that evolves after countless discussions with the bodybuilders from Fisher, representatives of the GM car divisions, and top General Motors management. This sharing of ideas begins nearly 3 years ahead of a scheduled new model introduction. It is a creative give and take that has but one goal: to come up with the finest, safest, most attractive automobiles it is possible to build. During these early discussions, the bodybuilder presents what he calls a shopping list of new manufacturing concepts and innovations that may make new styling effects possible. From exchanges like these,
Oh yeah, the skinny black ties are really good as well, Corporal Anvil.
Side impact construction.
TC says got to get my biceps proper and tan first. This is what they took from us. This is what we will get back. We will get back based white boys working in their working in the factories, building American things.
Keyless locking, and many others. A major emphasis is on what is called human accommodation, the comfort factor, ease of entry and egress, the contour and construction of seats, head height dimensions, shoulder room, hip room, leg room. They all must be resolved by the stylist before a design concept can be settled on. After countless discussions, presentations, and meetings, a styling concept is finally approved. The new car, destined for introduction some 30 months later, is carefully modeled in clay. Each dimension of the clay model is accurate to a fraction of an inch. The problem is getting the dimensions from the clay model into a form the bodybuilders can use to design the structural details of the car and the tools and dies needed to build it in great quantities. At General Motors, a complex electronic system is used to acquire the data from the clay. The system begins with an electronic surface recorder that acquires contour dimensions of large body areas and transfers them to engineering drawings. This replaces the laborious hand methods that were previously used. A three-dimensional photographic technique called photogrammetry is used to determine the basic dimensions of complex surface details, such as moldings and glass openings. Mylar drawings are made to these dimensions, and the basic shape of the clay model is transferred to paper. Next step, the information on the drawings is transformed into language a computer can understand. This process, called digitizing, puts the basic dimensions of the clay on punch tape. The data on the paper tape is transferred to magnetic tape, then to storage disks, and a refining process begins. By now, the group of Fisher bodybuilders called product engineers are hard at work. Sweetening, they call this process of smoothing out the body surface dimensions to the precise degree necessary for the design of structural components, tools, and dies.
You know, when Peter Thiel says that basically, like since the 70s, so like the last 50 years, we've had a tremendous advancement in the world of bits, but very little in the world of atoms. I look back at this is like the 70s. And obviously the screens are different. Some of these processes are a little bit different, but the level of sophistication in the manufacturing from then till now is, and maybe this is just me not knowing anything just talking out of it, but it looks like the actual sophistication of the design and everything is not that different. It's not like we don't have the ability to do this anymore. It was just incentivized out of the country. Think about how well paying these jobs were. And having a factory like this in a town, how much it would support the town. Now, I don't think we're going to get full, every single sneaker and t-shirt is going to be manufactured in the US. But many of these things absolutely can. Yeah, that does look like Proto Stephen Miller. Yeah, here's just a little bit of what your country loses when it outsources the factory production of everything it needs. So speaking of countries dying, something to keep in mind. When you see sudden bizarre commentary coming from those across the pond, it may be a legitimate existential risk for them to not change their tune. All of our Euro bros out there, I'm telling, we can't be too hard on them. I've tried to focus on, when I talk about this, I want to say this is wrong. And I think the reason why you're seeing this wrong is because you're viewing it from that perspective over there. But to everybody else, don't give these guys a hard time. Don't give them a hard time. Look at what they're living in. Look, when they log off their screen and they walk outside, this is the sort of thing they're walking out into.
Film some of this interaction with the mayor? No? Because if you do, that would be really handy for us. But apparently during some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged, we weren't here, so I don't know you said it, but you've alleged to say, speak English, or what's that effect?
Speak clearly.
Speak clearly.
The gentleman's passed on the desk.
Yeah, okay, speak clearly. Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Did we just know this was going to happen?
People, you know, if someone says to me, officer.
Look at the guy in the back here. Look at this guy here. When he says that could be a hate crime, watch this guy's face.
Fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Did we just know this was going to happen?
People, you know, if someone says to me, officer, I believe this, then we need to look at it, because someone's potentially reporting to
So it's a little hard to make out everything he was saying, and the captions weren't quite right. But this guy, the guy he's talking to down here, this old dude, old bloke, is partially deaf. And so you're talking to someone, and he told that person presumably speak clearly or something like that. And apparently telling someone to speak English could be considered a hate crime. In England. Judge Maddie says, I seriously worry about Carl and the Lotus Eaters being arrested. It's a legitimate possibility. So to those over there, like Carl and the Lotus Eaters, who continue to speak out bravely, massive credit to them. To those who don't, you can understand why they don't. And I think this is something that this is a legitimate factor that has to be considered. And you're listening to the things that they're talking about, guys from across the pond, yes, it's going to change the things they talk about publicly, and they have a massive vested interest in being very careful and maybe even signaling publicly that they are less of a threat to the powers that be over there than they might actually seem to be. I think they need understanding. Someone who's definitely not holding back at all, Asmongold. You guys watch Jason Mirchuk and I, we did a stream comparing Asmongold and AA. And here's another clip from Asmongold. He is ratcheting it up.
What's behind the church-going revival in the UK, particularly among Gen Z? Is that true?
I'm not surprised about that at all. It's obviously a cultural backlash from the amount of migrants, probably. And it's probably because these people feel like they've been displaced in their own country. And so by being displaced in their own country, they go back to old tradition. I feel like that's what would make sense to me. That's what I could expect, yeah.
If you saw this dude has an audience of millions of gaming Zoomers. Not particularly politically activated, but definitely becoming more so from listening to him. And I don't think these are things that he's just coming to now. Some of this stuff has to have been percolating in his mind silently for a while, but someone's in his ear, or he just gets it. But just wait till what he says next.
The state of our country right now is a lot to go and pray about.
Yeah.
Probably nothing more sinister than that.
Back to tradition? Yeah, exactly.
That's it? Oh.
No, he's not trying to say what it really is. It's the reason because they got a bunch of fucking migrants from random places in the world, don't even speak the language, not part of the culture. They got nothing to do with Britain. They're living there. And then apparently the government won't get rid of them. People are fucking annoyed by it. So you have a lot of young people, and like their job prospects, their opportunities in life, they feel has been compromised by all of these migrants that they don't really want in the country either. And so they see it as like a bunch of old people have sold them out for cheap labor from people that hate them. And so, yeah, of course they're going to go back to... This is what I said before about how I think they're going to elect the new Adolf over there, bro. Like, that's what's going to happen. Like, shit over there is getting really bad. And y'all think, by the way, Y'all think it's not going to happen? Let's find out. No, nothing to do with the UK. They're trying to embed themselves in the government, change the country legally to be like the Middle East. Well, I'm saying, like, regardless of what it is, it's not what these people grew up with, right? That's really what the difference is. You talking about England? Yeah. Well, not England particularly. I think it's going to be somewhat. I think that basically, I'm just going to be honest. I think that a lot of the like the migration problems in Europe, because people aren't able to have a civilized conversation about it and express a degree of trepidation or a degree of distrust or worry with the migration. I think that this will radicalize people so much that they will end up voting for somebody who is extreme.
Now, that somebody who's extreme is going to have to actually be able to get somewhere where they can vote for him, and I think that's going to take quite a bit. I think this story is more telling about Asmongold and his audience than it is about those across the pond. Now, those sorts of things can change rather quickly, but I think that our poor Euro bros are really going to have they think they're in the shit now. Give it another 2 years. Is going to get really, really ugly there, especially as things start getting better in the United States. By comparison, they're going to get much worse over there. And I honestly think that their best future is, as Tom Luongo, I think it's Tom Luongo that's been talking about this, that we're on a trajectory. No, it wasn't Tom. It was someone else who's been making this point that that we're on a trajectory toward Europe, number one, the EU fracturing, breaking apart, and some European nations becoming rump states, American rump states. And I know they don't want to hear it, but frankly, I think that's probably their best hope. I don't see them, independently, sovereignly freeing their nations from the thing that plagues them. I think it's going to happen organically. If it does, it's not going to be anytime soon. I think what's going to define the period of probably, 2027 to 2032, somewhere in there, there's going to be a lot more. The hostility, the latent hostility between the United States and Europe, I think is Europe's going to start fracturing, and we're not going to really be able to talk about Europe as Europe per se anymore, because there's going to be factional wars within them, and it's going to break into the people who are basically begging the United States to come save them, and the people who think the United States is the source of all of their ills. I think that's going to define. It's starting to pick up now, and some of these things could move faster. But I would put money on that being what defines the end of the 2020s. Last thing I've got for you guys here today. Speaking of the Zoomers, Asmongold's audience, Wade Stotts, one of the best of us, my good buddy Wade. He says the Minecraft movie is breaking records, and no one knows why, except for me. That is, I haven't seen the Minecraft movie. I haven't really followed it, but I have seen a little bit of this. The behavior of guys who are there watching it. And it's good to see the Zoomers, the young Zoomer men, really coming into their own.
In a time when everyone is talking about how Gen Z has abandoned film for creator content and that Hollywood is not alarmed enough about Gen Z, in comes a Minecraft movie. It had the biggest opening so far this year, the biggest opening ever for a video game movie, and the crowds are mostly high school and college-age guys. The YouTube movie review community is doing its usual thing. There are videos about plot holes, bad acting. After seeing it, some even predicted that it would be another big-budget flop, and here it is breaking records. But here's the thing. Everyone knows it's bad. So what happened? When the first trailer came out, people hated it. The consensus seemed to be this isn't Minecrafty enough. So in all the trailers after that, they just put in a bunch of clips of Jack Black saying words from the game.
Steve, Minecraft, Bucket Creative Survival, Elytra, Ender Pearl, Water Bucket, the Overworld, Save This World, Flint and Steel, the Nether, Wither, Chicken Jockey.
People were being talked down to, and they knew it. One trailer even told people that the movie
invites you to turn off your brain.
So they embraced it. Quickly, every line from the trailer got memed. There were edits,
Chicken Jockey,
Joque de galinha.
And even songs. Then, when the movie came out, the memes came to life. In screenings, every time they said a line from the trailer, this would happen. These guys got kicked out for doing this. This person caught it from outside the theater. And this screening got the cops called on them. Again, notice that it's driven by high school and college-age guys. Now theaters are posting warnings, and some aren't allowing minors in by themselves. We've seen behavior like this in movie theaters before. The Star Wars prequels, the Harry Potter movies, but that was all tinged with millennial sincerity. Millennials loved crappy movies earnestly. It's also different from something like The Room, because The Room was a bad low-budget movie that you had to hear about years afterward from your hip friend. This was a multi-million-dollar slop buster, and it was a meme when it was released. Another possible comparison is the three-wolf shirt phenomenon. If you're not familiar, the meme was that this shirt had magical powers and could make you stronger, smarter, and heal all your diseases, which is the same vibe you get from the Minecraft user reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Helped repair my relationship with my wife. This movie healed my cancer. The chicken jockey part made my eyes, jaw, and head explode into 16 billion pieces. But the wolf shirt and The Room were both examples of finding something obscure and making fun of how bad it is. The Minecraft movie is mainstream. If anything, this movie is like the Grimace Shake, and they're taking a bath in the stuff. My screening was full of college students, mostly male, and beforehand people were already saying to each other, "Are you ready for the ultimate cinematic experience?" And afterward, they were trying to come up with new ways of saying the same thing. That was peak cinema, beyond comparison. My entire life was just changed by the Minecraft movie. But as I was leaving, someone, maybe to assure his friends that he wasn't a drooling idiot, said, "No, but for real, that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen." It reminds me of public school. A lot of kids coped in public school by pretending to be into it. My wife's school had standardized test pep rallies, and the kids would hoop and holler like it was the Super Bowl. In my school, guys would pretend to ogle the teachers who looked like they were about 1,000 years old. Have you seen Mrs. Jansen today? Yummy. You could say it's weird and mean, but it's a coping mechanism. Prisoners telling the cooks how today's oatmeal was Michelin star worthy. They know they're going to get served slop, so now they're rubbing the slop on their faces and making sounds of pure ecstasy. This puts the studios in a weird position. On one hand, there's no difference between $300 million and 300 million ironic dollars. It all spends the same. On the other hand, how do you take lessons from this quote-unquote success and try to repeat it? Meme success doesn't last long. NBC isn't hosting The Tonight Show with Bad Luck Brian. People aren't filling up stadiums to see Tay Zonday. But if we're going off of other bad movies, the move seems to be to embrace the delusion. Be Tommy Wiseau, be Neil Breen. And that's what they've done. They've chalked up the success to the power of creativity and the strength of great storytelling. But again, it's hard to repeat a meme. Morning Routine Guy made a second video days later, but it was already played out. Rebecca Black is still making music. She released an album this year, but nobody cares. Anyone who does care is just hoping to have a flashback to that original feeling. What we can say for sure is that we'll get a Minecraft 2, and we'll get other studios trying to recreate the magic. But that's like the prison cook pretending that he did something different just because the inmates decided to sarcastically compliment him today. Or the people who organized the standardized test pep rally assuming that it was a huge success and the kids loved it. Minecraft the game is a fantasy world for young boys. You get to build cool stuff, fight zombies, etc. And when Hollywood turns that into another slop bucket with pudgy Jack Black and Jason Momoa dressed like a fairy, this is a natural reaction. What are they supposed to do? Not going hasn't stopped it, complaining online hasn't stopped it, so they might as well embrace it, even if it's ironic. If you can't be happy, you might as well pretend to be happy while wearing out your wink muscles. In Orwell's 1984, everyone wears a blue boiler suit and drinks gin. In our dystopia, everyone wears a wolf shirt and drinks green Minecraft milk. These are the guys who came of age during COVID and then the Biden administration. Every major event of their life has been a farce. On the bright side, they're having fun with it and mostly dealing with it in a funny way. They're trying to be Andy Dufresne, but even he had things that he enjoyed unironically. He read good books and listened to good music. They can make it through, but only if they have a clear idea of who they are.
I am Steve.
Not what I meant.
Shout out to Wade Stotts, The Wade Show with Wade. Go follow him at Wade Stotts on Twitter, Wade Stotts on YouTube. I need to get him back over here for an interview. If you go look back on the channel, I don't know. It's probably been at least a year now, somewhere in there. Had a great conversation with him. What did I call him? I called him the new right late night guy. Speaking of millennials, he captures the millennial vibe very, very well. These young Zoomer bros are desperate for something real, something sincere that they can actually sincerely bite into. They'll never acknowledge it. They are terminally irony poisoned, as is the plight of the Zoomer. But you have the millennials who were, like he said, they were sincere about their bad movies. They sincerely liked their bad movies. And then the Zoomers, again, they like the bad movies, but they got to do it ironically because you can't be sincere. Being sincere is gay. The millennials were sincere about stuff. That was their problem. They liked all the bad stuff and they liked it sincerely. What you have to do is you have to like the bad stuff ironically. Yeah, it sounds to me like Twitter culture is taking over the world. All right, guys, that's all I got. Not only did I give you a late night into early morning lab, I went for 3 hours. The viewership held up. I was surprised. I thought we were going to drop below like 50 viewers. I didn't think there was going to be anybody up to watch a lab this late. So I appreciate you guys showing up for this. Do me a favor and hit the like button. Those of you who are still here, thank you for the super chats. Reminder, you can support the show via joining the King Pill Discord at kingpill.com. There's a Cash App and Buy Me a Coffee links in the description. Make sure you go subscribe to the King Pill Substack, where I will be posting this episode, along with all the links that I went through today. If you want to see them or read through them or share them or watch them again or what have you. And make sure you go listen to EWBSX. Go download it. The app's available on the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, whether you are an Android or an iPhone guy. EWBSX is now live. Go listen to the Cyberbully. Listen to the tunes, the never-ending white pills. It's there for your consumption. Stay tuned for much more on the way. I will be back tomorrow, or actually today. I'm going to be up all night, basically. Got a bunch of work to do. So I'll be back probably late afternoon, early evening tomorrow, if I had to guess, with another episode of the ASTROLABE. So for now, hit the like button on your way out. Drop some Trumps in the chat, the eggplants, so we can game the algorithm and respect all of our brothers suffering with Trump-related ultramassive penis syndrome. Eggplants in the chat, and here comes Hulk. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough